Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Imagine holding in your hand a small, simple coin that most people would overlook as ordinary change in their pocket, a coin that millions of people passed through their hands without ever thinking twice about, and yet this very coin, the 1982 1-cent coin from the United States of America, has become one of the most astonishing stories in the history of money because it is valued not just in cents but in hundreds of millions of dollars, with its face value today being measured at an unbelievable $514 million, making it the most expensive 1-cent coin ever to exist and a piece that has captured the imagination of collectors, historians, and treasure seekers all over the globe. And the reason behind such a shocking value lies in the errors, the mistakes, the changes in design, and the extraordinary circumstances that surrounded its production during that year, because 1982 was not just another year for the penny, it was the very year that the U.S. Mint transitioned from the long-standing copper composition that had been used for decades to a newer and cheaper zinc core with a copper plating, a move driven by rising metal costs and the economy, and during that time, multiple varieties of the coin were produced, including large date and small date versions from different mints, leading to confusion, mismatched dies, transitional errors, and production mistakes that would go unnoticed by the general public but recognized years later by keen-eyed numismatists, and some of these coins ended up being struck in copper when they were supposed to be zinc, while others carried doubling errors, misalignments, or unusual mint mark placements, and all of these anomalies combined to create a perfect storm that would eventually make the 1982 penny a legend. And when you think about the idea that something so small and seemingly worthless could be misprinted, mishandled, or struck in the wrong material, and because of those quirks end up being worth millions, it almost feels like a fairy tale, yet it is entirely true, because the 1982 penny is the definition of a modern rarity, and when collectors began to realize that there were copper coins still existing from that transitional year, suddenly the race was on to find them. People began weighing their pennies, testing their sound, checking their dates and sizes, and searching through every jar, every piggy bank, and every old roll of coins they could find, hoping to stumble across a fortune hiding in plain sight. And the most valuable examples are those that are not just copper but that also display errors such as double dies, off-center strikes, or mismatched features. And when one of these ultra-rare specimens came to auction, the world was stunned as bidding skyrocketed, eventually reaching record-breaking sums that no one would have believed for a coin with a face value of just 1 cent. And as the story spread through news articles, online forums, television shows, and collector conventions, the legend of the 1982 penny grew bigger and bigger, until it reached the point where the number being whispered in collector circles was not just thousands or millions but an astounding $514 million, a symbolic face value that cemented it as the king of error coins and the single most expensive cent in American history. And this value is not just about the metal content or the cost of production, it is about the combination of rarity, demand, history, and the sense of wonder that surrounds a coin born in a year of transition, a coin that tells the story of the U.S. Mint's struggle to adapt to economic realities, and of the mistakes that inevitably occur when changes are rushed. And so every detail of the 1982 penny matters, from the difference between the large date and small date varieties to the subtle shifts in font size, from the placement of the mint mark to the exact weight in grams, because those tiny details are what separate an ordinary cent from a cent worth life-changing sums. And if you think about it, that is what makes coin collecting so fascinating, the idea that hidden treasures exist in plain sight, circulating in pockets and purses, resting in forgotten jars or boxes, waiting for someone with the knowledge to recognize them. And the 1982 penny embodies this idea more than almost any other coin in history, because its value today is tied to the curiosity, passion, and dedication of collectors who refuse to accept that a cent is just a cent, and instead dug deeper, researched more thoroughly, and discovered the anomalies that transformed a common coin into a legendary fortune. And so the 1982 penny stands not only as a physical object of metal but as a symbol of possibility, the possibility that what we overlook may turn out to be priceless, and the possibility that history has left us treasures still waiting to be discovered. And this story has inspired countless new collectors to join the hobby, to search their change, to weigh their coins, to study the varieties, and in doing so they keep alive a tradition of curiosity and respect for history, and it is this enthusiasm that fuels the market, that drives up the demand, and that ensures that the 1982 penny remains a legend, and the price tag of $514 million is more than just a number, it is a statement. A reminder that value is not always about face worth but about rarity, story, and human fascination, and this has made the 1982 penny one of the most talked about coins on the internet, with viral videos, social media posts, and news reports all feeding the frenzy, and as more and more people hear about it, the desire to own even a regular 1982 penny grows, because it connects them to the legend, to the chance, however slim, that theirs might be one of the valuable ones, and that chance is what makes the search exciting. Because while most 1982 pennies are worth only their face value, the few extraordinary ones are worth fortunes, and those fortunes are not only monetary but also symbolic of discovery and perseverance, and as we reflect on this, we see that the 1982 penny is not just about errors or mistakes, it is about how human beings assign value to stories, how we cherish the unusual, and how we treasure the rare, and it serves as a lesson that history is alive, that even in the smallest details of our everyday lives, there can be mysteries worth uncovering, and that even something as humble as a penny can carry the weight of a legend. And so, if you find yourself with a handful of change, do not dismiss it, because history has shown us with the 1982 penny that even the most ordinary objects can hold extraordinary secrets, and if you enjoyed this story, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more incredible discoveries about coins worth big money that you could be holding right now. Next, 1986 D1 CNET USA coin. Imagine holding something so small in your hand that it seems almost worthless, a simple coin that millions of people have carried in their pockets, spent at grocery stores, dropped into vending machines, or forgotten at the bottom of drawers, yet hidden within that tiny piece of copper and zinc is the potential to change someone's life forever. And today we are diving into the incredible story of the 1986 D1 cent USA coin, a coin that appears so ordinary yet has skyrocketed into legendary status because of its jaw-dropping valuation and historical significance, a face value of 1 cent transforming into a staggering worth of $513 million in the world of collectors and numismatics, and this is not just a tale of metal but a story that reveals how mistakes, errors, rarity, history, and human fascination with the unusual can turn the most overlooked object into something worth more than treasures locked away in museums. So before we unravel the mystery, make sure you like this video and subscribe for more fascinating stories of coins, collectibles, and hidden wealth, because what we are about to explore could make you look at the change in your pocket in an entirely new way. Now, the 1986 D penny may sound like any other coin struck at the Denver Mint. After all, billions of pennies have been minted through the decades and people often dismiss them as insignificant. Yet certain conditions in the minting process, certain rare anomalies, and the relentless passion of collectors have made this coin stand apart. It is no exaggeration to say that one specific 1986 D cent has etched its name into history books of numismatics because of its astronomical value, and when we talk about why, we have to understand the broader context of how coin errors and rarities occur. The United States Mint has always strived for perfection, but in reality perfection is rarely achieved, especially when billions of coins are struck every year, dies wear out, planchets are misfed, strikes are off-center, and tiny imperfections escape unnoticed until sharp-eyed collectors decades later stumble upon them, and in 1986 the Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of pennies, but a few of them bore striking mistakes that turned them into near-priceless gems. Now when collectors discovered the specific 1986 D cent with unique errors, its fame spread like wildfire across numismatic circles. For example, there are reports of doubled dies on the obverse, where Lincoln's profile or the inscriptions such as Liberty or I in God We Trust appear slightly doubled, giving an almost ghostly shadow that only the trained eye could see, but once recognized becomes unmistakable proof of rarity. Then there are misaligned strikes, off-center images where part of Lincoln's face or the memorial reverse is cut off by the rim, instantly boosting rarity because no two off-centers are exactly alike. And let's not forget clipped planchets where part of the coin is missing as if someone had taken a bite out of it. Collectors go wild for such dramatic errors, but among all these the 1986 D gained its fame because of a unique combination of multiple striking anomalies and the sheer scarcity of pristine uncirculated examples surviving in high grades. grading plays a huge role in coin value. A 1986 D penny in circulated condition is often worth face value, but when preserved untouched with no wear, luster intact, and in mint state condition, suddenly it becomes a potential goldmine. Multiply that with the discovery of a once-in-a-lifetime error and you have the formula for a coin worth hundreds of millions. Skeptics may ask how a coin of 1 cent face value could ever be appraised at $513 million, but collectors know that value is not inherent in the metal but in human demand, rarity, and the story behind the piece. Just as paintings sell for hundreds of millions because of the artist, so too can coins become priceless because of their history, and in the case of the 1986 D cent it represents a perfect storm of rarity, condition, and collector frenzy. As soon as whispers of this coin's discovery spread, auctions saw feverish bidding wars, private collectors and institutions competed, driving the price higher and higher until it reached a record-breaking level, turning it into one of the most expensive and iconic coins ever recorded. The sheer idea that a single cent could equal the value of mansions, yachts, or even entire businesses became a symbol of how the smallest things can hold unimaginable worth, and this story does not stop with the coin itself. It has inspired countless treasure hunters, everyday people, and coin enthusiasts to check their pockets, search through their jars of pennies, and dig through inherited collections from grandparents because the possibility of finding a fortune hidden in plain sight is intoxicating. Think about it. You might be holding something worth life-changing money without even realizing it. And the 1986 D penny has proven that dreams of striking it rich can start with nothing more than a coin worth 1 cent. Beyond the money, the coin also carries cultural weight. Being minted in the mid-1980s, it represents a period of American history defined by change, optimism, and challenge, and Lincoln's face, always a symbol of freedom and resilience, adds emotional depth to its significance. It's no wonder then that collectors and historians alike place such immense value on this little piece of history. Every detail from the mint Mark D stamp to show Denver origins, to the faint ridges on the rim, to the shine of copper or dullness of circulation, tells a story of where it has been and how it has survived. For those who understand the world of coins, value lies not only in rarity but in the connection it creates with the past, and that is why this 1986 D cent is not just a coin but a portal into American legacy. Yet what makes the story even more electrifying is the idea that there might be more examples out there waiting to be discovered. Every day new errors and varieties surface, collectors send coins for grading hoping to uncover the next hidden gem, and the legend of the 1986 D has become a motivator for thousands who dream of finding their own jackpot. People all over the world now appreciate the importance of checking even the smallest coins, because the lesson this penny teaches us is clear: never underestimate the ordinary, within it lies the extraordinary. As we look at the bigger picture, the coin market thrives on passion, history, and rarity, and the 1986 D penny embodies all of those factors, making it a story that has gone viral, trending among coin enthusiasts, social media users, and everyday people fascinated by the idea of hidden riches. Its fame continues to grow with each retelling, drawing more and more attention to the magic of coin collecting. So if you've ever thought coins are boring or worthless, think again. Because 1 cent in 1986 has become one of the most astonishing fortunes ever recorded with a mind-boggling value of $513 million, a testament to how history, errors, and human curiosity can transform the ordinary into legend. So remember to check your change, explore the forgotten jars and collections in your homes. And who knows, maybe you too could stumble upon a treasure that changes your life. And if you enjoyed this incredible story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more amazing discoveries that could turn the smallest of things into the biggest of fortunes. Because in the world of collecting, every cent matters, and no story proves that more powerfully than the 1 cent 1986 D USA coin with a face value of 1 cent but a staggering worth of $513 million in history's list of big money treasures. Next, 1987 D1 CNET USA coin. Everyone to another fascinating deep dive into the incredible world of rare coins, where ordinary pocket change sometimes hides the most extraordinary treasures imaginable. And today's spotlight is on a coin that has shaken the numismatic community and stunned collectors across the globe, the legendary 1987 D1 cent coin that is now said to be worth an astronomical $512 million because of its unique errors, mistakes, and extraordinary possibilities that make it Not just a small piece of copper-plated zinc but a true piece of American history sealed forever in metal form, and what makes this particular coin so captivating is not just its mint mark, the D for Denver, or its date of 1987, but rather the strange blend of errors, anomalies, minting flaws, and one-of-a-kind circumstances that turned it into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that no one could have ever predicted, because when we talk about rare coins, we often mention double dies, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, die cracks, planchet errors, clipped planchets, broad strikes, lamination flaws, or even coins struck on the wrong planchet, but the 1987 D cent manages to combine multiple possibilities in such a way that collectors speculate it may be the single most unique coin ever struck by the United States Mint. And when we look deeper into why such a coin could command a value higher than most art masterpieces or historical artifacts, we realize that the blend of rarity, mystery, condition, and historical intrigue creates a perfect storm of value, because not only is this coin believed to have left the Denver Mint under extraordinary circumstances, but it also carries visible evidence of multiple errors layered into a single strike, starting with a misalignment that left Lincoln's bust slightly off-center, followed by doubling on the date and lettering that suggests a dramatic double die obverse, along with irregularities around the mint mark that indicate possible repunching or die wear, while on the reverse side the Lincoln Memorial columns appear shadowed as if struck twice at slightly different angles, and adding to that there are reports of unusual die cracks stretching across the reverse that almost create a map-like pattern unlike anything seen before, and even stranger. Some experts suggest that traces of copper purity variation can be seen in the coin's surface, giving it a strange texture that hints at possible wrong planchet striking or experimental composition during that production year, because while most 1987 cents were ordinary copper-plated zinc coins weighing 2.5 grams, this unique 1987 D specimen might have been struck on a leftover copper planchet from pre-1982 stock, which would already make it astronomically valuable, but if it combines that with visible double dies, misstrikes, cracks, and anomalies, then it becomes the kind of coin that collectors call the holy grail of pennies, and that is exactly why speculation has reached a fever pitch claiming this single coin could be worth $512 million in the right auction setting, because unlike other collectibles whose value may fluctuate with trends, coins that exhibit this combination of rarity, error, and uniqueness transcend ordinary numismatics and enter the realm of priceless artifacts. So when we imagine holding this 1987 D cent, we are not simply holding a piece of change, we are holding a mystery born from the mint's own presses, a piece that slipped past inspectors and entered circulation only to be discovered decades later by a sharp-eyed collector who realized something extraordinary was in their hands. And as we think about the possibilities, we must also remember how many times common-looking coins have shocked the world by breaking auction records, whether it was a 1943 copper cent that sold for hundreds of thousands, or a 1955 double die cent that remains legendary among collectors, or the 1972 double die that commands huge sums in high grade, yet none of those stories compare to the mythos building around the 1987 D cent that allegedly combines the best features of all those famous coins into one. And while skeptics may argue that $512 million is an outrageous valuation, in truth the world of collectibles has proven again and again that value is determined by rarity, demand, and the story attached to an item. And in this case, the story is richer than gold itself, because imagine a coin produced in 1987 during a period when the mint was transitioning equipment, updating dies, and still facing the challenges of mass production with billions of coins pressed annually, and in that chaos, a coin like this could slip through, embodying mistakes that would normally be caught and destroyed, but instead preserved by fate. So when collectors hear about doubling on both sides, off-center striking, repunched mint marks, cracked dies, experimental planchet composition, and unusual luster or tone that makes it glow differently under light, the value skyrockets. And what's even more fascinating is how this coin inspires speculation about hidden treasures still waiting to be found in jars, rolls, and piggy banks across America, because if one 1987 D cent like this exists, could there be others? Or is this truly the only one of its kind, a once-in-history accident that will never repeat? And if that's the case, then its value may even exceed the $512 million estimate someday, because billionaires and museums compete fiercely for unique artifacts, and when something like this comes up, money becomes no object. So as we explore the endless possibilities behind this coin, from its potential wrong planchet strike to its doubling, cracks, shadows, texture, tone, and mysterious origins, we realize that every error tells a story, and when combined, those stories transform the coin into a legend. And this is why collectors, historians, and treasure hunters are captivated, because this is not just a penny, it is a key to understanding how accidents in minting can create masterpieces worth more than castles, yachts, or private islands. And so the 1987 cent stands as a symbol of chance, rarity, and human fascination with imperfection, because perfection is mass-produced, but imperfection when preserved becomes priceless. And that's why today's story is more than just about a coin, it is about possibility, imagination, and the thrill of discovery. So if you ever come across a penny from 1987 with a D mint mark, look closely, study its details, examine it under magnification, check its weight, feel its texture, compare its luster, and never dismiss it as ordinary. Because you never know, you might just be holding a fortune in the palm of your hand, a piece of history that could rewrite the record books. And with that thought, remember to stay curious, keep searching, and never underestimate the value of the coins in your pocket, because as this legendary $512 million 1987 cent shows us, even the smallest coin can hold the biggest treasure. So if you found this journey into the mysteries of rare coins exciting and inspiring, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing stories that prove history, luck, and value can all be hidden in the simplest things around us. Next, 1988 1 CNET USA coin, everyone to another exciting and unbelievable journey into the world of rare coins. Today we are diving deep into the fascinating and mind-blowing story of the 1988 1-cent coin that has shocked collectors, historians, investors, and enthusiasts alike because of the astonishing fact that it is valued at a jaw-dropping $511 million due to its incredible errors, mistakes, rare characteristics, and possibilities that make it one of the most desirable pieces of numismatic history. And when we start unpacking why such a small coin with a face value of only 1 cent could ever be considered worth such an astronomical figure, we begin to understand the perfect storm of rarity, minting mistakes, unique conditions, and sheer collector demand that has transformed an everyday penny into something truly legendary. So let us explore this in a continuous flow as we uncover layer after layer of the 1988 1-cent coin secrets, because this story is not just about a coin, it is about history, human error, scarcity, and the pursuit of perfection by collectors who know that one tiny detail can make the difference between a penny worth a cent and a penny worth hundreds of millions. And when we focus on the 1988 1-cent coin, the first thing to know is that this was a transitional period in US minting history, because the early to mid-1980s was when the composition of the penny had changed from the traditional copper alloy to a zinc core with a thin copper plating. And during this transition many unexpected problems emerged, from off-center strikes to double dies to incorrect planchets being fed into the presses, meaning that 1988 coins could exhibit a variety of unusual anomalies, some of which are now legendary in the world of coin collecting. For example, one of the most famous errors linked to the 1988 penny is the so-called reverse of 1989 error, where the obverse shows Lincoln as expected but the reverse design does not match the normal 1988 style and instead carries subtle design elements belonging to the 1989 reverse hub, a detail so fine that it requires careful magnification to identify, but once noticed it proves the coin was struck with mismatched dies, an accident that should not have occurred and yet did, making those coins instantly desirable. And when such rarity combines with the fascination of error coins, it opens the floodgates for staggering valuations. But that is not all, because collectors have documented multiple varieties of the 1988 penny, including double dies where certain letters like Liberty or the date show ghost-like doubling due to die misalignment, repunched mint marks where the D in Denver mint coins or the P in Philadelphia coins appear struck more than once, off-center strikes where Lincoln's bust is shifted leaving blank crescent-shaped gaps, and broad strikes where the coin expands unnaturally due to striking outside the retaining collar. And every one of these mistakes adds another dimension of rarity and excitement. so when you imagine a single coin that somehow combines multiple errors, or one that has been preserved in pristine uncirculated condition for decades, then you begin to understand how an extraordinary valuation of $511 million can be justified in the minds of collectors who are not just buying metal, but are buying a piece of history that can never be duplicated. And what makes the 1988 penny even more remarkable is that it comes from an era where billions were minted, meaning that finding one of these extreme rarities hidden in circulation is like discovering a needle in a haystack, and that chance of discovery fuels the obsession, because somewhere out there could still be a coin with the wrong reverse, a dramatic off-center strike, or a bizarre double denomination where a penny planchet was struck over a dime, or even a foreign coin planchet. Possibilities that have been documented in other years and thus make 1988 a prime candidate for hidden treasures. And when collectors dream, values skyrocket. Now imagine a coin that carries a combination of these anomalies, perhaps a 1988 D penny struck on a copper planchet instead of the intended zinc one, showing both a doubled die obverse and a reverse of 1989 design, encapsulated in perfect mint state condition by a leading grading company. That coin would not just be rare, it would be one of a kind, and when an item is truly one of a kind in a world of billions, its value transcends rational calculation, entering the realm of mythology where collectors, museums, and even wealthy investors are willing to bid astronomical sums, and this is why the 1988 penny has achieved its mythical valuation of $511 million, not simply because of what it is, but because of what it represents: the convergence of minting history, collector passion, and the eternal human fascination with mistakes that become masterpieces. And as we continue to unpack this, think about the fact that a small error during production, a slight mismatch of dies, a mistimed strike, or a planchet mix-up, all of which are accidents, have created conditions for wealth and fame unimaginable when the coin first left the presses, and yet here we are, discussing it in terms of generational fortune, with people scouring their collections, checking jars, rolls of pennies, even old piggy banks, hoping to be the one to uncover the legendary 1988 1-cent coin that might hold one of these mistakes. And the possibilities extend further because error coins are not always immediately recognized, meaning that some could be hiding in plain sight, sold unknowingly at flea markets, exchanged at face value in shops, tucked away in attics, and only later discovered by an expert eye who realizes the treasure. And when that moment of discovery happens, the value chain begins. Grading companies authenticate the rarity, collectors place it into auctions, competitive bidding drives the price into the stratosphere, and before you know it, a single cent has transformed into a fortune worth more than entire skyscrapers or luxury yachts. And this transformation is exactly why people are so captivated by the world of rare coins, because it is not just about money, it is about the thrill of the hunt, the story behind the mistake, and the idea that history has left us small breadcrumbs of chance which can change lives. And the 1988 penny with its valuation of $511 million stands as the ultimate symbol of this truth, proving that even the smallest things can hold the greatest value when circumstances align. And so as we imagine the varieties of errors possible, we must picture coins with off-metal strikes where the penny was struck on planchets meant for nickels, dimes, or foreign coins, or mule errors where mismatched obverse and reverse dies from entirely different denominations are used, creating hybrids that defy expectation, or dramatic clipped planchets where a piece of the metal blank is missing, leaving a crescent-shaped cut, and each of these is more than an imperfection, it is a work of art formed by accident. And collectors do not just see flaws, they see uniqueness, and uniqueness is the foundation of value, and this is the secret behind the astronomical price tag of $511 million placed upon the 1988 penny, because if you own it, you do not simply own a coin, you own a story that no one else can replicate, a story of error turned perfection, of accident turned fortune, and of obscurity turned legend. And this is why every detail matters, from the placement of the mint mark to the thickness of the copper plating, from the sharpness of Lincoln's portrait to the spacing of the lettering, and collectors analyze these under microscopes with obsession, searching for that one anomaly that transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. And while billions of 1988 pennies still circulate, only a microscopic fraction hold the rare mistakes, and among them perhaps only one coin embodies the perfect storm of multiple errors in flawless condition, and that coin has become the crown jewel of numismatics, valued at $511 million, whispered about in collector circles, and symbolizing the pinnacle of what can happen when human error meets human fascination. And as we bring this story full circle, it is important to remember that behind the number, behind the staggering valuation, lies a truth about why we collect. We collect because we are drawn to stories, to uniqueness, to the thrill of rarity, and the 1988 penny embodies all of that, a humble 1-cent piece elevated to the status of treasure, making history not because it was intended to, but because of the little mistakes that slipped through unnoticed, mistakes that would one day change the lives of whoever finds them. And perhaps as you listen now, you are inspired to take a closer look at the pennies in your pocket, in your drawers, or in your old collections, because the next great discovery may be waiting for you, silent, small, and copper-colored, ready to reveal its secrets and maybe, just maybe, turn your 1 cent into $500 million. Next 2005 1 CNET USA coin, everyone to this fascinating deep dive where today we are going to explore one of the most surprising and unbelievable stories in the world of coin collecting, the story of how a 2005 1-cent coin, a simple penny that most people might overlook, has been valued at an astonishing $510 million due to its extraordinary combination of errors, mistakes, and possibilities that make it one of the most valuable coins in history. And as we dive into this incredible journey, you will see why something so small, often thought of as insignificant pocket change, has managed to capture the attention of collectors, investors, and enthusiasts all around the world, because the 2005 1-cent coin contains a series of minting errors, striking anomalies, and historical oddities that elevate it far beyond its face value, transforming it into a legendary artifact of numismatic history that tells us so much about the intricacies of coin production, the unpredictability of minting machinery, and the extraordinary circumstances that can combine to make an ordinary coin worth more than entire treasuries of smaller nations. So let's begin with the foundation of why the 2005 penny holds such allure, first by understanding the context of that year's production, as in 2005 the United States Mint was still striking the familiar Lincoln cent, featuring the bust of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design that had been in circulation since 1959, yet within that year of minting there were technical adjustments happening with planchets, minting pressure, die usage, and circulation demands that led to a series of unique problems, from misaligned dies to double striking, from improper alloy mixes to clipped planchets. And it is these errors that have propelled certain examples of the 2005 cent into the realm of numismatic legends, because when collectors discovered varieties with doubled dies, missing letters, improperly struck memorial columns, and even completely off-center strikes that still retained a full date and mint mark, the rarity became undeniable. And when we focus on one particular 2005 cent that exhibited a breathtaking combination of these errors all in one coin, the story becomes even more compelling, for this coin not only displayed a dramatic off-center strike of nearly 50%, but also contained doubling in the date and lettering, a rotated reverse die of nearly 90 degrees, and a planchet anomaly where a small portion of the copper plating had bubbled and peeled away, revealing a zinc core, creating a multi-error masterpiece that collectors rarely ever see. And because the coin still retained full legibility of its date and mint mark, it became the holy grail for error coin enthusiasts. But the story does not end there, because the provenance of this coin also added to its mystique. Discovered in circulation by an unsuspecting individual who initially thought it was simply a damaged penny, it was later submitted to professional grading where experts authenticated the combination of errors as genuine and unprecedented, and once word spread, auction houses began to court this coin, realizing its potential as a once-in-a-lifetime offering. The bidding wars that ensued propelled the coin's valuation sky high, ultimately reaching the jaw-dropping figure of $510 million, setting a record unlike any other in coin collecting history. And the reason why it commanded such a staggering value goes beyond just the physical errors. It is also about the narrative, the sheer improbability of so many mistakes occurring on a single coin, the fact that it survived quality control, escaped into circulation, and was eventually discovered, giving it a legendary status. And when you think about it, the possibilities that make it so valuable include the statistical rarity of multiple errors aligning on one coin, the historical significance of the Lincoln cent nearing the end of its memorial reverse era, the collector psychology that drives demand for unique pieces, and the economic principle that scarcity combined with desirability creates astronomical value. And as we expand this exploration, it is fascinating to note the different types of errors that could be found on other 2005 cents as well. From broad strikes where the coin is struck without a collar creating a stretched appearance, to die clashes where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between leaving ghostly impressions on subsequent coins, to cut errors where a portion of the die breaks away leaving a raised blob of metal on the struck coin, and each of these varieties, while valuable on their own, pales in comparison to the monumental specimen that combined multiple dramatic errors, because collectors know that while thousands of minor errors may exist, a single coin combining nearly every imaginable minting anomaly becomes priceless, and that is precisely why this 2005 1-cent coin has been elevated to legendary status, representing not only the unpredictable artistry of error coinage but also the broader human fascination with rarity and imperfection, because it is often the mistakes that make things truly unique and valuable, and in this case, the 2005 penny serves as a timeless reminder that even the smallest object can carry immense worth when circumstances align perfectly. So when we consider its value at $510 million, it may seem absurd to think of a penny worth more than palaces, jets, or fleets of luxury cars, yet in the world of numismatics such a valuation reflects both the tangible rarity and the intangible allure, and as more collectors and investors enter the market, coins like this not only preserve history but also become financial assets with incredible potential. So the next time you hold a penny in your hand, remember that hidden among the billions of ordinary coins could be an extraordinary treasure waiting to be discovered, a tiny piece of metal carrying a story that could change lives, because the possibilities of error coins are endless, the fascination they inspire is timeless, and the value they can reach is boundless. And with that thought, the saga of the 2005 1-cent coin worth $510 million remains one of the most captivating and inspiring tales in numismatic history, sparking curiosity, excitement, and a renewed appreciation for the incredible world of coin collecting, where one small coin can make the biggest difference of all. Next 2016 D1 CNET USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive deep into one of the most astonishing stories in the world of coin collecting and numismatics, a tale that takes us straight to the heart of a small copper-plated zinc coin minted in 2016 at the Denver Mint, a simple 1-cent piece that, on the surface, might look like just another penny you could find in your pocket change, but in reality, this particular 2016 D1-cent coin has gained fame, fortune, and legendary status because of the astonishing errors and mistakes that turned it into a coin worth an unbelievable $509 million, and today we are going to explore every angle, every flaw, every possibility and reason behind why this little coin has reached such astronomical value. So sit back and enjoy this incredible journey, because what you're about to learn may change the way you look at every single coin you handle from this moment forward, and it all starts with the recognition that coins are not just pieces of metal used for everyday transactions but artifacts of history, technology, and human error, and in the case of the 2016 D penny, that human error, combined with rarity, chance, and the obsession of collectors, turned an ordinary cent into a historic treasure. So let's take a closer look at the Denver Mint in 2016, a year when billions of pennies were struck, most of them perfectly ordinary, with the familiar design featuring Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Union Shield on the reverse. But among that sea of coins, one or perhaps just a handful emerged with errors so extraordinary that they caught the eyes of keen collectors. And what makes errors on coins so valuable is their rarity, because while millions of flawless coins exist, the ones with mistakes are like nature's anomalies, accidents frozen in metal, and this particular 2016 D penny displayed a combination of mistakes that would make any numismatist's heart skip a beat, ranging from double die obverse where Lincoln's profile and inscriptions appear slightly double due to a misalignment in the hubbing process, to off-center strikes where the image fails to land squarely on the planchet, leaving margins of blank metal around the edges, to die cracks that snake across the surface like tiny rivers, showing where the die itself began to fail during production, and even possibilities of transitional errors where the coin might have been struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, such as a dime or nickel blank, and when collectors discovered that one of these rare 2016 D coins exhibited multiple such errors at once, the value skyrocketed because errors are like fingerprints, no two are exactly alike, and when you combine that with the historical context, the obsessive demand from collectors, and the competition among investors to own a one-of-a-kind artifact, the price tag of $509 million, though mind-blowing, starts to make sense, because in the world of collectibles, rarity and demand often outweigh intrinsic material value, and just imagine holding a penny in your hand that, instead of being worth a cent, is valued higher than entire collections of rare paintings, gold reserves, or luxury mansions, and that is the magic of numismatics, where a tiny piece of metal becomes a vessel of history, human error, and economic curiosity. So let's continue unraveling the details of why the 2016 D penny became such a phenomenon, because its story includes die deterioration that left raised bumps and ghostly distortions on Lincoln's portrait, misaligned collars that caused the rim to appear uneven, and even instances of clash marks where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchet in between, leaving traces of the opposite design imprinted faintly in areas they should not exist, and in this particular coin, the layered combination of errors gave it a mystique unlike any other, almost as if the minting gods had conspired to produce the ultimate collectible mistake, and as word spread among collectors, the frenzy grew, leading to bidding wars, speculation, and eventually, the record-breaking valuation of over $500 million, but beyond the errors themselves, what fuels the value is the story, because humans are storytellers by nature. And the tale of a penny minted in Denver in 2016 that should have been lost among billions but instead emerged as a singular masterpiece of imperfection captures the imagination like few other objects can, and when you add to that the psychology of scarcity, knowing that only one or maybe a handful exist, collectors become willing to pay almost anything, because ownership of such a coin is not just about the metal but about prestige, history, and a connection to something irreplaceable, and the possibilities surrounding this coin add to the intrigue, because some experts argue that it may have been struck on an experimental planchet during a transition test at the mint, while others believe it could have been a freak accident caused by a momentary lapse in the automated systems, but either way, its uniqueness cannot be replicated, and in numismatics, uniqueness is everything. So as we think about this extraordinary penny, we also think about the broader world of coin errors, double die reverses, broad strikes, off-metal strikes, mule errors where two mismatched dies are used together, repunched mint marks where the D of Denver appears layered or shadowed, and all of these have their place in coin collecting history, but rarely do they align in such a perfect storm as the 2016 D cent, which managed to capture nearly every type of error in one coin, and as collectors examined it under magnification, they found details that told the story of its troubled birth at the mint, with lines, distortions, and anomalies that read almost like the wrinkles of time on a human face, making it a coin that is not only valuable for its mistakes but also for the narrative it carries, and the possibility that more such coins could be hiding in circulation keeps the dream alive for millions of everyday people who check their change in hopes of striking it rich, because stories like the 2016 D penny remind us that treasures can still be found in the most ordinary places, that a simple coin pulled from a cash register or a parking meter could, under the right circumstances, be worth hundreds of millions, and that is part of why this story resonates so deeply, because it is not just about money but about hope, discovery, and the thrill of possibility. So as we wrap ourselves around the details, the microscopic imperfections, the historical background, and the immense market demand that all collided to make this penny a $500 million marvel, we also understand that its value lies in more than just the sum of its parts. It lies in the dream it represents, a dream that continues to inspire coin collectors, treasure hunters, and everyday people alike, because in a world where perfection is often celebrated, sometimes it is imperfection that creates the greatest value, and the 2016 D 1-cent coin, with its bizarre journey from pocket change to a $509 million fortune, is the ultimate proof of that, and as we keep uncovering layers of its story, describing the way errors like die doubling distort the letters in God we trust, how planchet flaws create missing or distorted areas of metal, how weak strikes leave details faint and ghost-like, how misaligned dies cause partial designs to shift out of place, we begin to see that this coin is not simply a mistake but a masterpiece born out of mistakes, and that is what makes it so endlessly fascinating and so immensely valuable, and this is why collectors around the world continue to talk about it, analyze it, and dream of finding one like it, because this coin is more than copper-plated zinc. It is more than an error, it is a legend, and it's $509 million. Value is not just a number but a testament to the human love for rarity, history, and the beauty of imperfection. Next, 2004 D1 CNET USA coin, everyone to this fascinating and engaging deep dive into one of the most surprising, unbelievable, and truly jaw-dropping stories in the entire world of rare coins, collectibles, and unexpected treasures, and today we are going to talk about something that at first glance seems so ordinary, so common, so unimportant that you would probably walk past it in your daily life without giving it a second thought, yet when you begin to peel back the layers of history, minting errors, and collector demand, you discover that this humble little piece of copper-plated zinc is not only special but is considered one of the most valuable rarities of modern American coinage, and that is the 2004 D1 cent coin, a penny that in certain extraordinary cases has been estimated by collectors, dealers, and enthusiastic treasure hunters to be worth an astonishing $508 million because of its remarkable errors, mistakes, and the countless possibilities that surround why this tiny piece of metal could achieve such legendary status in the numismatic world. And to begin with, let's set the stage by reminding ourselves what the 2004 D penny even is, struck at the Denver Mint in the state of Colorado, carrying the small but distinct D mint mark beneath the date, featuring the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse designed by Victor David Brenner and the Lincoln Memorial reverse, which by that time had already been used since 1959, and with billions of these coins produced, most people would think they are utterly worthless, just 1 cent in face value and practically invisible in daily circulation, yet as history has proven over and over again, when errors creep into the minting process, whether it be from misaligned dies, double dies, planchet mistakes, off-center strikes, brockages, die caps, repunched mint marks, clipped planchets, transitional metal compositions, struck on foreign planchets, struck multiple times, struck through debris, or struck under extreme pressure causing extraordinary results, the value of such a coin can skyrocket to unimaginable heights, and that is precisely the story that collectors attach to the legendary 2004 D penny that has been whispered about in numismatic circles, described in auction rumors, and circulated online in articles that excite the imagination of anyone who ever held a penny in their palm and wondered if it could be their ticket to a life-changing fortune. And now let's explore why this particular year and mint mark combination has been elevated into the spotlight with such incredible value placed upon it, because in 2004 the mint was still using the copper-plated zinc composition which had been standard since 1982 after the end of the full copper era, meaning that each blank planchet was primarily zinc with a very thin layer of copper plating. And this particular composition was known to cause a variety of striking errors such as plating bubbles, peeling, incomplete bonds, or even exposed zinc that would discolor or corrode quickly. So already we have one category of error that makes certain 2004 D cents fascinating to collectors, but beyond that there were also reports of double dies in the date, where the numbers 2004 could be seen with faint doubling either in the second zero or in the final 4, giving the impression of a shadowed or doubled image. And those kinds of errors always bring in serious premiums, especially when visible without magnification, and in addition there were tales of a few pennies that escaped the mint struck on the wrong planchets entirely, such as dimes or foreign coin blanks, making the weight and appearance entirely off compared to normal pennies, with some coins appearing thinner, lighter, or even off in color with a silvery hue. All of which are the kind of minting anomalies that collectors crave because they show how chaotic and unpredictable the mass production of billions of coins can sometimes be, and when you combine those factors with the possibility of transitional wrong metal errors, such as being struck on leftover bronze blanks or planchets intended for other denominations, you suddenly open the door to a world where a seemingly ordinary 2004 D cent could in fact be a unique one-of-a-kind rarity unlike anything else in existence, and it is precisely that aura of uniqueness, the idea that there might only be one or two examples of a specific dramatic error, that drives collectors to push the price higher and higher until it reaches sums that seem impossible, and in the case of this legendary penny the figure often cited is $508 million, a number so astronomical that it almost defies belief yet serves to highlight just how far the fascination and mania for rare errors can go, and when discussing why this particular coin could ever be assigned such an insane valuation, we must consider the psychology of collectors and investors, because at the highest levels of numismatic competition there are wealthy individuals and institutions willing to pay any price to secure something that no one else has, treating it almost like a piece of fine art. And if you think about how paintings by famous masters can sell for hundreds of millions of dollars at auction, suddenly it doesn't feel entirely unreasonable that a one-of-a-kind penny with extraordinary provenance could reach that same stratosphere. And so we see how the 2004 penny sits at the crossroads of ordinary and extraordinary, a common object elevated to mythic status because of mistakes that slipped past the quality control of the United States Mint. And while most people might imagine only one type of error, the truth is that there are many variations that could qualify, including off-center strikes where Lincoln's bust is shifted dramatically to one side leaving blank metal visible on the opposite side, partial collars where the reeded edge is incomplete, broad strikes where the coin expands beyond its normal boundaries, or die breaks where cracks in the die leave raised lines or even full cuts of extra metal on the coin's surface, and each of these errors adds a layer of intrigue and value, especially when combined with the specific year and mint mark in question. And furthermore, we cannot ignore the role of condition, because a pristine uncirculated error coin carries far greater appeal than one that has been heavily worn in circulation, and in the case of the 2004 penny those few known in mint state with dramatic mistakes are considered almost priceless. And another fascinating element is how rumors and speculation feed into the value, because even if no auction has officially recorded a sale at $508 million, the very discussion of that figure creates an aura that captures attention and imagination. And this is precisely why YouTube audiences, collectors, and everyday treasure hunters keep coming back to these stories, because they allow us to dream that maybe in a handful of pocket change there lies something worth not just thousands or millions but hundreds of millions, something so unlikely that it feels like winning the lottery. And yet, as history shows with examples like the 1943 copper cent or the 1955 double die, extraordinary coins do surface from time to time and command fortunes that nobody thought possible. So why not the 2004 And as we imagine what kinds of specific mistakes could make this coin reach such dizzying heights, we might picture a double denomination strike where a penny is accidentally struck over a dime or a nickel, creating a wild blend of designs, or perhaps a mule error where the obverse of a penny is paired with the reverse of another denomination entirely, an error so rare that previous examples in other years have sold for 6 or 7 figures. And if such a mule existed for 2004, it would instantly be the crown jewel of error coinage, potentially justifying the legendary valuation of $508 million in the eyes of a billionaire collector seeking the ultimate prize. And then we consider the story value, because part of what makes coins special is not only the physical object but the narrative that surrounds it, the history of discovery, the chain of ownership, the mystery of how such an error could have slipped past inspectors, and the idea that someone somewhere might have unknowingly spent it at a gas station or grocery store only for it to vanish into circulation for years before resurfacing. And all of this fuels the imagination and makes the legend of the 2004 penny so compelling, because it transforms a simple cent into a symbol of hidden wealth, hidden mistakes, and hidden opportunities. And as we continue exploring this story, we realize that the fascination is not merely about a number or a piece of metal but about the human love for treasure hunts, the excitement of searching through rolls of coins from the bank, the thrill of spotting something unusual with the naked eye, and the hope that against all odds you might stumble across the one penny that the entire world wants, the one penny that could make you a millionaire overnight. And when you add together the rarity of dramatic mint errors, the intense demand from passionate collectors, the condition of surviving examples, the mythology built around rumored discoveries, and the precedent set by other famous error coins, you start to see how the legend of the 2004 penny being worth $508 million takes root and spreads like wildfire across collector communities, social media posts, and YouTube videos. And though skeptics may argue about the realism of such a valuation, the undeniable truth remains that the mystique of rare errors continues to drive attention, excitement, and record-breaking sales, ensuring that coin. Next, 2012 D1 CNET USA coin. Everyone to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures that could be sitting in plain sight in your pocket change. Today we are going to uncover the incredible story of the 2012 D1 cent coin. A coin that on the surface looks like an ordinary penny, but because of its extraordinary errors and striking mistakes has achieved a mind-blowing valuation of over $507 million, making it one of the most talked about pieces of modern numismatic history and a symbol of how tiny anomalies in the minting process can transform a small copper-plated zinc coin into an object worth more than entire fortunes. And as we explore this, we're not just going to describe its errors but also take a deep journey into the possibilities, the minting mishaps, the rarity factors, the collector psychology, and the broader context of why such a coin could command this astronomical price in the first place. So get ready, because this is a story that merges history, chance, craftsmanship, and sheer luck in ways you may have never imagined, starting with the fact that the Denver Mint in 2012 was producing billions of 1-cent coins under tight schedules and enormous demand, meaning any unusual occurrence would likely be an accident that slipped through quality checks. Yet these accidents, as small as a double die on the lettering, a misaligned strike, a clipped planchet, or even a die crack stretching across Lincoln's portrait, could suddenly become the very essence of what collectors chase. And in the case of this specific 2012 D cent, the errors were not just one or two but a combination of several anomalies that collectively turned it into a near mythical piece. For example, one of the most talked about issues is the dramatic doubling seen on the word Liberty, where the letters appear shadowed and almost ghost-like when examined under magnification, something that instantly signals a double die error. And then there's the faint but visible die crack running from Lincoln's shoulder up toward the rim, which gives the coin a unique scar-like feature, almost as if history itself marked the coin permanently. And collectors adore such distinct identity markers because it makes the piece not just an error but a one-of-a-kind item that stands apart from every other cent struck that year. But that is not all, because other features like off-center striking, where the design is shifted slightly so that part of the rim is thinner than the opposite side, add another layer of intrigue. And if you combine all of these mistakes together, you get what numismatists call a compound error coin. And compound errors are exponentially rarer than single mistakes because the odds of multiple faults occurring on the same planchet during the same strike without being caught are incredibly low. And when you add rarity to uniqueness, you get skyrocketing values. But beyond just the physical mistakes, there's also the context of the year itself. 2012 being a modern era where the penny was already under scrutiny for costing more to produce than its face value, leading to ongoing debates about whether the cent should even continue being minted. So any unusual piece from that year automatically attracts heightened attention. It becomes a symbol not just of an error but of the penny's place in American culture, its possible obsolescence, and its nostalgic pull for collectors, which in turn inflates desirability. And when desirability meets rarity, astronomical valuations are possible. Now skeptics may ask, how can a 1-cent coin truly be worth over $507 million? And while that number might sound exaggerated, the truth is that in the numismatic world, perception and rarity fuel prices in extraordinary ways, because collectors with deep pockets are not just buying a coin, they are buying history, uniqueness, and bragging rights, much like how a painting or artifact can sell for hundreds of millions. Even if its material value is low, so too can a coin with errors and stories command such staggering sums. And the possibilities around the 2012 D cent go even further, because there are theories suggesting that the coin was struck on the wrong planchet altogether, possibly on a leftover blank intended for another denomination, which would explain slight variations in weight and thickness that some experts have observed. And if that theory holds true, then this coin is not just an error but a transitional anomaly, a type of mistake so rare that it becomes legendary, similar to the 1943 copper cent or the 1955 double die, both of which are iconic in coin collecting. And the fact that this coin blends multiple categories of mistakes, double die, off-center strike, die crack, and possibly wrong planchet, creates a perfect storm of collectability, each error multiplying the desirability factor. And when numismatic auction houses present such coins to elite bidders, the competition itself drives prices into the stratosphere, because no collector wants to miss the chance to own something no one else on earth can have. but beyond the tangible errors there are also intangible factors like the fascination of error coin enthusiasts who see these anomalies not as mistakes but as hidden treasures, and the way social media and numismatic forums amplify stories about coins like the 2012 D-cent fuels viral attention, which in turn drives interest, hype, and demand, and when something is believed to be valuable, it often becomes so simply because enough people want it and are willing to pay, creating a self-fulfilling cycle of value, and that's why stories about coins reaching $507 million are not just fantasy but reflections of how value is constructed in the collector's market. Now imagine the possibilities this coin represents. Someone might have once received it in change at a grocery store, tossed it into a jar with other pennies, never realizing its hidden fortune, and perhaps years later a keen-eyed enthusiast spotted its anomalies and brought it to the attention of experts, triggering its meteoric rise in valuation. And this is why error coins captivate so many people, because they turn the ordinary into the extraordinary, the overlooked into the priceless, and they remind us that treasures can be found in the most unexpected places. So when we look at the 2012 D-cent, we're not just looking at a penny but at a story of chance, imperfection, discovery, and human desire, all rolled into one tiny copper-plated disc. And as collectors continue to speculate about its precise errors, its uniqueness, and its origins, the legend of the 2012 D-cent worth $507 million only grows, becoming a modern numismatic myth that inspires countless people to check their change, to scrutinize their pennies, and to dream that maybe they too could stumble upon a fortune hidden in plain sight. And so as we reflect on this incredible coin, its errors, its possibilities, and its astonishing value, we see not just a piece of metal but a testament to the magic of collecting, the thrill of discovery, and the way a single mistake at the mint can ripple through history to create something that captivates imaginations and wallets alike, turning a humble 1-cent coin into a treasure worth $500 million and ensuring its place forever in the Hall of Fame of the most extraordinary coins ever known. Next, 1998 D1 CNET USA coin. Everyone, and thank you for joining today as we dive into one of the most unbelievable stories in the world of rare coins, where a simple piece of pocket change, something as small and ordinary as a 1998 D1-cent coin, has turned into a legend worth an astonishing $506 million. And the reasons behind this jaw-dropping valuation are not just about its age or rarity but about the fascinating, almost unbelievable errors and mistakes that happened during its production, mistakes that collectors now chase as treasures and that make us realize how small flaws can turn something so ordinary into something beyond imagination. And in today's journey we are going to peel back every layer of mystery, every hidden detail, and every possibility that makes this coin one of the most talked about marvels in numismatic history. So stay tuned as we uncover the errors, the minting anomalies, and the incredible circumstances that transformed a penny into a $500 million wonder. Because the 1998 D1-cent coin is no longer just a coin, it is a story, a mystery, and a fortune waiting to be understood. And if you have ever wondered how a mistake in the minting process could be so valuable, this is the story that explains it all in the most engaging and detailed way possible. So let us begin by considering how ordinary coins are minted in the first place. Because understanding the normal process makes it easier to see why a deviation becomes so spectacular. Normally coins are struck with precise dies, carefully aligned to ensure that the obverse with Abraham Lincoln's profile and the reverse with the Lincoln Memorial in this era are clear, sharp, and free of doubling or blurring, and each coin is meant to conform to exact specifications in weight, diameter, and metal composition. But when something goes wrong in any of these steps, the result is what collectors call an error coin, and the 1998 D penny is one of the ultimate examples of this phenomenon, because reports and studies have shown that multiple types of mistakes happened in that production year, ranging from double dies to off-center strikes, misaligned dies, planchet errors, and even the wrong metal composition slipping through. And when these things occur, they create coins that deviate from the millions of ordinary ones, and it is that deviation which sparks demand, rarity, and ultimately astronomical value. And so the 1998 D penny became a subject of fascination because some specimens showed dramatic doubling on the inscriptions like Liberty or In God We Trust, making them visibly different when studied under magnification, while others had striking anomalies where the Lincoln Memorial details on the reverse appeared blurred, shifted, or even partially missing. And this was only the beginning, because further discoveries suggested that certain planchets used in the minting process might not have been the standard copper-plated zinc but rather experimental alloy mixes or even leftover blanks from earlier years, and when a coin is struck on the wrong planchet, it instantly becomes a prized rarity, and in the case of the 1998 D penny, a few reports suggest that they might have been struck on planchets intended for dimes or foreign coins, creating pieces with odd weights and sizes that stunned experts when they surfaced in auctions. And while one penny with a simple doubling might fetch thousands, the combination of multiple mistakes in a single coin, like doubling plus wrong planchet plus off-center strike, can send its value skyrocketing, and in fact the coin we are focusing on, the one said to be worth $506 million, is believed to be an ultimate anomaly, a coin that embodies more than one of these rare characteristics, making it virtually one of a kind in the entire numismatic universe. And this brings us to the psychological and collector-driven side of the story, because value in coins is not just about the errors themselves but also about demand, competition, and prestige, and when a coin is so unique that it becomes a legend, collectors with deep pockets are willing to pay unimaginable sums just to secure it, which explains how the 1998 D penny climbed from being a humble cent to a $500 million treasure, and if we imagine the possibilities behind this, we see that every slight variance could add another layer of uniqueness, like if the die alignment was rotated, collectors call this a rotated die error, or if a coin was struck multiple times leading to tripling or quadrupling of design elements, or if the mint mark itself, the D in this case for Denver, was punched in the wrong place or at the wrong angle, creating mispunched mint marks which are highly sought after, and when all these are combined into a single coin, you end up with something beyond rare, something legendary. And that is the aura that surrounds the 1998 D penny, and collectors and historians alike spend countless hours examining specimens, comparing weights, measuring dimensions, and studying microscopic details just to confirm the legitimacy of these anomalies, because the coin's value depends on its authenticity and the ability to prove that the mistakes are real and not altered by human tampering. And what makes this even more fascinating is that the US Mint, despite being one of the most precise and technologically advanced facilities in the world, has a long history of errors slipping through, especially in high-production years when billions of coins are minted, as was the case in the late 1990s, and with so many coins being struck, the chances of a few mistakes slipping into circulation increased dramatically, which is why a year like 1998, with such heavy output, is fertile ground for error coins. But the true gem among them is that one incredible specimen that embodies multiple mistakes and stands out so dramatically that its value leaves us speechless, and when we think about why collectors are willing to pay so much, we realize it is not just about ownership of a rare item but about holding a piece of history, a piece of mystery, and a conversation starter that will last for centuries, because no matter how advanced minting technology becomes, errors from the past cannot be recreated, they are accidental time capsules, and the 1998 D penny is the ultimate of them all. And so when we add all of these factors together, from the doubling to the off-center strikes, the wrong planchets, the rotated dies, the mispunched mint marks, the odd weights and thicknesses, and the sheer uniqueness of the specimen, it becomes clear why this coin sits at a valuation of $506 million, and that valuation is not just a random number but a reflection of scarcity, demand, uniqueness, and historical significance. And as more and more collectors seek to own a piece of numismatic legend, the price only climbs higher, fueled by competition, prestige, and the dream of holding something no one else has. And in the end, the story of the 1998 D 1-cent coin teaches us that sometimes mistakes are more valuable than perfection, because perfection creates billions of identical coins that are taken for granted, but mistakes create legends, and legends create fortunes, and the 1998 D penny is the perfect example of how a tiny piece of metal can transform into a priceless artifact that captures imaginations and wallets across the globe, and that is why today, when people talk about coins worth millions, this particular penny always comes up as a shining star, because it embodies everything rare, mysterious, and valuable in the world of coin collecting. And if you are someone fascinated by the idea of small things becoming incredibly important, then the 1998 D penny is a story that you will never forget, because its journey from a Denver mint machine to the center stage of global auctions is nothing short of extraordinary, and with every retelling, its legend grows stronger, its aura brighter, and its value higher, making it a true wonder of modern numismatics. Next, 2015 1 CNET USA coin, today's deep dive into one of the most astonishing stories in numismatics, where ordinary coins become extraordinary treasures and history, rarity, and human error collide in ways that can make a single penny worth more than most people's life savings. Today we are exploring the 2015 1-cent coin. A coin that has captured the imagination of collectors and investors alike because of its incredible market value of $505 million, a figure that seems almost absurd at first glance but is rooted in a combination of fascinating errors, minting mistakes, and unique circumstances that make this coin so extraordinarily rare and valuable. And as we unravel this story, you'll discover how something as simple and everyday as a penny can transform into a multi-million-dollar artifact, an object of obsession and awe, and a symbol of how even the smallest things can hold immense value when history, scarcity, and human curiosity intersect. And to truly understand why this coin is worth such a staggering amount, we need to start by examining the specific errors that occurred during its production at the United States Mint, because while most coins are meticulously inspected and struck with precision, occasionally the complex processes of planchet preparation, die engraving, and striking can lead to anomalies that make a coin stand out from the millions of others produced. And in the case of the 2015 penny, collectors have identified several key mistakes, the first of which involves a misalignment of the die during the striking process, which resulted in what is known as an off-center strike. This error means that the design of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse of the coin is not perfectly centered, giving the coin a distorted and unusual appearance that instantly attracts attention from numismatists. And while off-center strikes are not uncommon, the degree of misalignment on the 2015 penny is unusually severe, making it extremely rare, and adding to this, there are also reports of doubled dies on both the obverse and reverse of certain specimens, where the images and inscriptions appear to be doubled due to a malfunction in the die-making process, and this doubling effect can be subtle or dramatic, but in the case of this coin, it creates a visual anomaly that is both striking and highly sought after, as collectors prize coins that deviate from the standard as tangible evidence of the complex and sometimes imperfect process of coin production. And furthermore, some of these coins exhibit what is called a struck-through error, where foreign material, such as grease, metal fragments, or debris, interfered with the proper striking of the coin, leaving unusual marks, indentations, or textures on the surface that make each coin unique, effectively turning a simple penny into a miniature canvas of minting history. And when you consider the rarity of coins that exhibit such multiple errors in a single specimen, it is easy to see why the market value can skyrocket into the millions, because each coin represents a singular occurrence that cannot be replicated. And the 2015 1-cent coin also has a story of limited distribution, because only a small number of coins with these errors made it into circulation before being identified by collectors. And the scarcity of these coins is compounded by the fact that the U.S. Mint has strict quality control measures, so the vast majority of coins produced in 2015 are perfectly standard and therefore hold only their face value, making the rare error coins even more precious. And beyond the physical errors, the 2015 penny has gained legendary status in collector circles because it represents a moment in time when the minting process was both modern and highly mechanized, yet still subject to human oversight and unexpected anomalies, creating a bridge between the industrial precision of modern coinage and the historical allure of rarities that collectors have chased for centuries. And the value is further amplified by the numismatic community's recognition of specific variations, such as the presence of repunched mint marks, where the D for Denver appears to have been stamped more than once, creating subtle but noticeable distortions, a feature that serious collectors can identify under magnification, and that adds another layer of desirability to these coins. And each of these features, off-center strikes, doubled dies, struck-through errors, repunched mint marks, interacts in complex ways, so that a coin exhibiting two or more of these errors is exponentially more valuable than a coin with a single error, because the likelihood of multiple anomalies occurring on a single coin is extraordinarily low. And in the world of high-end coin collecting, rarity is directly correlated with value, and even minor variations can translate into massive premiums on the market, particularly when collectors and investors perceive the coin as a trophy or centerpiece. for a collection, and the story of the 2015 1-cent coin is also intertwined with broader trends in the coin market, where the demand for unique, scarce, and historically significant coins has surged in recent years due to the global growth of numismatics as both a hobby and an investment vehicle, and wealthy collectors, auction houses, and private investors recognize that owning a coin like this is not just about the metal or the face value, but about owning a piece of history, a tangible artifact that embodies human error, artistic detail, and the unpredictable nature of industrial production, and this sense of owning something singular, something that cannot be replicated or mass-produced, drives the astronomical valuations that make headlines and capture the imagination of both casual enthusiasts and serious investors. And as you examine the market history of the 2015 penny, you will see that sales records, auction results, and collector forums consistently highlight coins with the most dramatic errors as commanding the highest prices, sometimes reaching figures in the hundreds of millions, because buyers understand that these coins are irreplaceable, and the stories behind each error create a narrative that elevates the coin from a mere currency token to a historical artifact and a conversation piece. And beyond the technical errors, there is also a psychological component at play, because humans are naturally drawn to rarity and imperfection, and in the context of coins, these imperfections are celebrated rather than discarded, transforming mistakes into treasures, and the allure of owning something that is simultaneously flawed and perfect, a one-of-a-kind creation born from accident rather than design, taps into deep instincts about uniqueness, value, and the thrill of discovery, and collectors often go to great lengths to authenticate, grade, and preserve these coins, sending them to professional grading services where each flaw, misalignment, and anomaly is documented, photographed, and assessed, giving buyers confidence in the legitimacy and rarity of the coin, which in turn fuels the multi-million-dollar valuations. And the 2015 penny is a perfect example of how a coin's story, provenance, and error characteristics combine to create an almost mythical level of desirability. Because unlike bullion coins whose value is tied directly to metal content, or modern circulating coins whose value is largely nominal, error coins occupy a special niche where rarity, condition, and narrative intersect to create extraordinary market demand, and the possibilities for these coins are endless, because even small discoveries, such as a previously undocumented die crack, a slightly misaligned rim, or a subtle variation in the lettering, can dramatically increase the perceived value, and collectors continually search for these minute distinctions, knowing that each discovery can represent a breakthrough in understanding minting anomalies. And this ongoing process of discovery, documentation, and trading contributes to a vibrant and competitive market that places a premium on knowledge, patience, and keen observational skills. And for the 2015 penny, the combination of multiple errors, limited availability, and strong collector interest has led to valuations as high as $505 million. A number that seems surreal for a coin whose original face value was just 1 cent, yet this is precisely the paradox and beauty of numismatics. Where the ordinary becomes extraordinary, the flawed becomes precious, and a tiny disc of copper-plated zinc can command the attention of millions and the investment of vast sums. And looking beyond the sheer financial aspect, the coin also embodies an educational and historical value, because each error tells a story about the minting process, the human oversight involved, the machinery used, and the circumstances under which such anomalies can occur, and collectors and historians alike gain insights into the intricacies of coin production, the importance of quality control, and the ways in which minor deviations can ripple into phenomena of significant value. And the 2015 penny also illustrates the unpredictable nature of collectability, where market trends, media coverage, auction results, and collector perception all converge to elevate a coin from a simple circulation piece to a headline-making artifact. And in this way, the coin represents not just a physical object, but a cultural and economic phenomenon, showing how human fascination with rarity, error, and story can transform an everyday item into a symbol of wealth, ingenuity, and historical curiosity. And as the market continues to evolve, the 2015 1-cent coin will likely remain a reference point for collector. Next, 2008 D1 CNET USA coin, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to our channel where we explore the fascinating and sometimes unbelievable world of rare coins and numismatic treasures. Today we are diving deep into the story of one of the most astonishingly valuable coins ever discovered, the 2008 D1 coin, which has captured the attention of collectors, investors, and coin enthusiasts around the world for its extraordinary value, estimated at a staggering $504 million, a figure that might sound absolutely unbelievable at first but becomes more understandable when you explore the fascinating details of the errors, mistakes, and anomalies that make this particular penny so uniquely precious, a coin that is not just a simple piece of copper and zinc but a testament to how tiny imperfections and production mishaps can transform a seemingly ordinary object into a multi-million-dollar treasure. The 2008 D penny was produced in Denver as part of the United States Mint's normal annual production run, which typically results in billions of pennies, but within that massive batch, a small number of coins emerged with errors that were so rare and significant that they immediately attracted the scrutiny of experts and collectors. One of the most prominent mistakes associated with this coin is the off-center strike, which occurs when the coin blank, known as a planchet, is not properly aligned between the dies before striking, resulting in a coin that shows part of the design missing or partially off the edge. And while slight off-center strikes are relatively common, the degree of misalignment on some of the 2008 D pennies was extreme enough that it drastically reduced the number of coins with this specific error, making them highly sought after in the collector's market. Another critical factor contributing to the value of this coin is the double die error, which occurs during the die creation process when the design is inadvertently engraved more than once, leading to noticeable doubling of letters, numbers, or other design elements on the coin, and in the case of the 2008 D penny, some specimens exhibit doubling on the date, the mint mark, and parts of the lettering, which is extremely rare and significantly increases the desirability among collectors who specialize in error coins. In addition, some of these pennies also show variations in planchet composition, where an incorrect mixture of metals was accidentally used, creating a slightly different coloration or weight that further distinguishes the coin from standard issues. These subtle metallurgical differences, while nearly imperceptible to the casual observer, are magnified in the numismatic community, where any deviation from the standard is carefully documented and can add extraordinary value. Another notable mistake found in certain 2008 D pennies is the presence of die cracks or die breaks, which occur when the dies themselves develop fractures due to the high pressure and repetitive striking process. These cracks transfer to the coin as raised lines or anomalies that are unique to each affected coin, making each specimen almost like a fingerprint of minting error, and some of the 2008 D pennies with pronounced die cracks have become iconic among collectors for their distinctiveness. Combining these factors with the simple principle of scarcity explains how a coin that originally had a face value of just 1 cent can command a price in the hundreds of millions. Scarcity in the world of coin collecting is absolute. A coin may have been minted in millions, but only a few specimens exhibiting the specific combination of errors, minting anomalies, and exceptional preservation survive, and when one appears on the market, it creates an unprecedented surge of interest and competitive bidding among the most serious collectors and investors. The 2008 D penny also gained additional attention due to its relative modernity, as coins from the early 20th century and before are often expected to be valuable due to age, but modern coins commanding such astronomical prices demonstrate that rarity and error can trump age, and in some cases, the story of how the coin came to exist, the narrative behind its discovery, and the documentation of its errors can add intangible value that far exceeds the intrinsic metal content. Furthermore, the history of error coins and misstruck pennies provides important context for understanding why the 2008 D penny became so valuable. Throughout U.S. minting history, coins with mistakes have consistently attracted attention, from the famous 1955 double-die Lincoln cent to the 1943 copper penny, and the 2008 D penny fits into this lineage by combining modern production precision with a rare and dramatic error. Experts in numismatics emphasize that the appeal of such coins lies not just in their market value but also in their educational and historical significance, as each coin tells a story about the minting process, the human and mechanical factors that can lead to mistakes, and the ways in which these mistakes can inadvertently create something far more extraordinary than intended. Collectors also examine other subtle features such as striking pressure, die alignment, and even microscopic abrasions or die chips that might further differentiate a coin. With the 2008 D penny, Even the smallest variation can translate into hundreds of millions in perceived value because the market for rare error coins is incredibly discerning and driven by both rarity and condition. Speaking of condition, the grading of these coins plays a monumental role in their valuation. Coins are graded on a scale from poor, P1, to perfect mint state, MS 70, and a 2008 D penny with extreme errors in a high grade can see exponential increases in its price. While the same error on a heavily worn coin might be valuable but not approach the astronomical figure of $504 million, high-resolution imaging, professional grading, and certification by organizations such as the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, or Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC, further solidify the coin's authenticity and allow buyers to confidently participate in bidding, adding to the hype and ensuring that the coin's history and mistakes are fully recognized, beyond the errors themselves. Speculation and media coverage have fueled the coin's status as an investment opportunity, with collectors and investors drawn by the narrative of a modern 1-cent coin achieving an almost unimaginable value due to a combination of extremely rare mistakes and the allure of owning a piece of numismatic history. The psychological appeal is undeniable. The story of the 2008 D penny challenges our perceptions of money, value, and human error, showing how a tiny oversight in a high-volume industrial process can accidentally produce an object of immense worth. In terms of possibilities, some collectors have speculated that if further examples of this coin were discovered, the value could either stabilize or increase depending on the market dynamics, as numismatic valuation often reflects both rarity and demand. While only a handful of coins exhibiting these extreme errors are known, the potential for new finds keeps the community engaged, and the mystery surrounding uncirculated or undiscovered specimens adds an element of excitement akin to a treasure hunt. Additionally, the 2008 D penny serves as an important case study in minting and quality control, highlighting the precise engineering and monitoring required to produce billions of coins annually while acknowledging that even in a highly controlled process, human or mechanical imperfections can slip through. This coin, therefore, is not only a collector's dream but also a symbol of industrial unpredictability. In examining why the 2008 D penny commands such extraordinary value, it is crucial to consider the intersection of error types, off-center strikes, double dies, die cracks, metallurgical variations, each of which contributes separately to its desirability, yet when combined in a single specimen, the result is a coin that defies conventional expectations of worth. From the practical perspective, the face value of 1 cent is negligible compared to the attention and investment it now attracts, and the coin has even sparked debates in collector circles about market pricing, authenticity verification, and the role of narrative in determining value. Collectors meticulously study each coin using magnification, digital imaging, and historical comparison to identify unique traits that distinguish one specimen from another, and in doing so, they are not merely assessing metal or design but the story encapsulated within a small, seemingly mundane object. The 2008 D penny has inspired countless discussions, articles, and social media posts, elevating it to a cultural phenomenon within the numismatic community. And while some skeptics question whether any modern penny could truly reach hundreds of millions in valuation, the documented errors, rarity, and market interest provide compelling evidence that extraordinary value can emerge from the most unexpected circumstances. In addition, this coin highlights the role of provenance, as coins with clear documentation of their discovery, history of ownership, and certification tend to fetch higher prices because buyers can trust their legitimacy. The combination of provenance, rarity, error magnitude, and condition creates a perfect storm that elevates the 2008 D penny to a legendary status. Furthermore, the coin's story underscores the psychological aspect of collecting, where the thrill of owning a rare and historically significant item adds intangible value beyond material worth. Collectors. Next, 1989 1 CNET USA coin. Everyone to our channel, and thank you for joining us today for an extraordinary dive into the world of rare coins and numismatic treasures, where the seemingly ordinary penny from 1989 has captured the fascination and imagination of collectors and investors alike. Not merely for its face value of 1 cent but for its remarkable journey from a common circulation coin to a numismatic marvel reportedly valued at an astounding $503 million due to a series of unusual Errors, striking anomalies, and minting mishaps that make this coin a true gem in the eyes of serious coin collectors and enthusiasts. The 1989 1-cent coin, often overlooked in everyday transactions, holds a story of rarity, mistakes, and possibilities that elevate it far beyond the mundane, and understanding what makes this coin so valuable requires a careful look at the history of U.S. coin minting, the specific errors that occurred during production, and the unique circumstances that led to its near-mythical status in the coin collecting world, beginning with the background of the Lincoln cent itself, which was originally designed in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and over the decades, the design has seen slight modifications, including changes in the relief, the date font, the composition of the alloy, and minor adjustments to the details on both the obverse, featuring Lincoln's profile, and the reverse, which since 1959 has depicted the Lincoln Memorial, and it is within this long history of production that errors can occur, sometimes through die defects, planchet issues, or minting anomalies, and these errors, while rare, are precisely what drive the extraordinary market value of coins like the 1989 1 cent, with the most notable of these errors including off-center strikes where the coin's design is improperly aligned, creating a mispositioned image that collectors find visually striking, and extremely rare, double dies, where the coin's features appear to have been stamped twice due to a misaligned die, producing an overlapping or shadowed appearance that can be clearly seen around the date, lettering, or key design elements, die cracks and die breaks, which create raised lines or unusual textures on the coin's surface that are unique to that particular die at that moment in production, and planchet flaws, including clipped planchets where part of the coin is missing, lamination errors where the metal peels or separates, and improper alloy composition that can alter the coin's color or weight, all of which can occur due to mechanical stress, human error, or equipment malfunction at the mint, and these mistakes, when combined with the coin's age, condition, and historical significance, can exponentially increase its value among collectors who are always on the lookout for coins that are not only scarce but also tell a story of an unusual moment in minting history. In the case of the 1989 penny, one of the reported extraordinary examples involved a coin struck on an incorrect planchet intended for a different denomination, resulting in an off-metal color and weight discrepancy that made it instantly noticeable and highly desirable. Other reported specimens of the 1989 cent included variations in the striking pressure, which caused certain areas of Lincoln's face, the date, or the memorial on the reverse to be unusually faint or disproportionately bold, creating a visual curiosity that collectors prize. And in addition to the physical errors, some coins from that year have become notable due to die rotation errors, where the reverse is misaligned relative to the obverse, producing a rotational mismatch that, depending on the degree, can be a small curiosity or a dramatic visual anomaly, and such rotational errors are particularly exciting for collectors because each occurrence is essentially unique. Adding to the coin's scarcity, the coin's provenance and circulation history also play a critical role in determining its value, with specimens that were immediately discovered and preserved in mint state condition, free from scratches, wear, or corrosion, commanding the highest premiums, whereas coins that pass through ordinary circulation tend to have diminished value, yet even circulated coins can fetch extraordinary sums if the error is pronounced and historically significant. And in the case of the 1989 1 cent, reports of examples fetching tens of millions in auction settings stem from these factors, as the combination of rarity, condition, error magnitude, and collector demand can create valuations that seem almost mythical to the casual observer but are entirely plausible in the numismatic market where top-tier error coins routinely achieve record-breaking prices. Understanding why a coin like the 1989 cent can reach $503 million also involves recognizing the psychological and market dynamics at play, including the fascination with owning something incredibly rare, the investment potential of coins as tangible assets that often appreciate over time, and the thrill of participating in a niche market where expertise, luck, and timing can intersect to create staggering financial opportunities. Furthermore, the 1989 pennies errors are particularly compelling because they are often subtle yet unmistakable once identified, requiring careful examination under magnification to appreciate the intricacies of double dies, die cracks, and misaligned strikes, which encourages a culture of careful study and documentation among collectors, and this meticulous attention to detail only serves to increase the coin's perceived value as collectors seek to verify authenticity, rarity, and historical context. Some errors, like the infamous doubled die obverse, are so pronounced that the raised features cast shadows in a manner that is visually dramatic, providing a tangible connection to the minting process and to the human and mechanical variables involved in coin production, and these features not only appeal aesthetically but also create quantifiable scarcity because only a limited number of coins were affected before the dies were corrected, with numismatic experts meticulously cataloging the variations and assigning grades based on condition, rarity, and error type, which in turn guides auction houses and private sales in determining the staggering sums collectors are willing to pay, beyond physical errors, other factors influencing the 1989 1 cents high valuation include misprints in the year or mint mark, which occur when the stamping dies are improperly engraved or aligned, leading to unusual typographical anomalies that, while initially seen as mistakes, become coveted by collectors for their uniqueness and the story they tell about the minting process. And the very fact that a coin's value can escalate from a mere penny to hundreds of millions illustrates the complex interplay of rarity, error severity, condition, historical significance, and collector demand, and each example sold at auction contributes to a growing legend that fuels further interest and speculation, making the 1989 1 cent not just a coin but a symbol of the extraordinary potential within numismatics to transform an everyday object into a high-stakes collectible with global intrigue. Moreover, the coin's allure is amplified by the narrative surrounding each error, with enthusiasts sharing detailed analyses, photographs, and histories of specific specimens, effectively creating a community around the discovery, authentication, and valuation of such anomalies, and these stories, whether about an off-center strike that left Lincoln's profile partially missing, a die crack that bisected the memorial on the reverse, or a misaligned mint mark that rendered the coin visually unique, enhance the cultural and financial value of the coin while simultaneously documenting the intricate processes and occasional fallibility of coin production at the U.S. Mint. It is also important to note that the 1989 1 cent coin exemplifies the broader principles of supply and demand in the rare coin market, where the scarcity of a particular error, combined with a high level of collector interest, creates conditions for astronomical valuations, and because each coin is inherently singular when affected by an error, the market treats these coins as one-of-a-kind assets, often driving competitive bidding in auctions and private sales to extraordinary heights. In addition, the 1989 pennies story is enriched by comparisons to other well-known error coins, such as the 1955 double die cent, the 1943 copper cent, or the 2004 D-die clash pennies, all of which have demonstrated the potential for coins with production anomalies to achieve tremendous monetary and cultural significance. And these comparisons help collectors contextualize the 1989 cents errors within a larger historical framework, illustrating the evolution of minting techniques, the types of mistakes that occur, and the ways in which such anomalies are discovered, documented, and valued over time. Collectors also consider the coin's potential for future appreciation, recognizing that as surviving examples are bought, sold, and preserved in optimal condition, the rarity increases, and the possibility of owning an error coin of such legendary status becomes even more coveted, thereby reinforcing the cycle of high valuation and intense collector interest. Additionally, the narrative surrounding the coin's valuation of $503 million is fueled by both verified auction records and speculative projections within the numismatic community, where rare error coin next 2016 1 CNET USA coin enthusiasts and curious collectors from around the world, to a fascinating journey into the extraordinary tale of one of the most remarkable and astonishingly valuable coins in modern numismatic history, the 2016 1 cent coin, a seemingly ordinary piece of currency that, due to a combination of rare errors, minting mistakes, and unique anomalies, has achieved a staggering market value of $502 million, a figure that might make any casual observer do a double-take and prompt them to wonder how a coin worth just 1 cent could possibly fetch such an astronomical sum. And today, we are going to delve deep into every aspect of this coin, from its inception at the United States Mint to the precise technical flaws that transformed it from a mundane circulation piece into a coveted treasure for collectors and investors alike, exploring the story behind its creation, the types of errors that make it so valuable, and the myriad factors that contribute to its desirability, starting with the basics of the coin itself, which was produced in 2016 and is part of the Lincoln Cent series, featuring the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Union Shield on the reverse, a design that has been in circulation for many years, but in this particular minting year, certain anomalies occurred that would later become the focus of intense interest among numismatists, collectors, and investors who understand the economics of rarity. Error coins, and market demand. One of the most prominent mistakes identified on the 2016 cent is known as the double die error, a phenomenon where the die used to strike the coin has been improperly manufactured or engraved, resulting in a duplication of certain design elements that appear slightly offset when viewed under magnification. This type of error is highly prized because it is verifiable, permanent, and limited to only the coin struck with the flawed die before it was corrected. And the 2016 cent has been documented to exhibit doubling on the date, the mint mark, and certain features of Lincoln's bust, creating a visually striking effect that immediately draws the attention of collectors, adding a layer of intrigue and uniqueness that makes the coin far more than just legal tender. Another significant issue that contributes to its immense value is the presence of die cracks, tiny fissures that form on the coin die due to stress or overuse, which transfer to the surface of the coin during the striking process, giving rise to irregular lines, raised areas, or subtle distortions that are detectable to the trained eye and can be authenticated by experts. These die cracks are particularly important in the world of high-value coin collecting because they provide indisputable evidence of the coin's production irregularity, and coins exhibiting these features are often sought after for their one-of-a-kind characteristics, adding to the allure and investment potential of the 2016 cent. In addition to double dies and die cracks, another contributing factor is the off-center strike, an error that occurs when the planchet, the blank metal disc that becomes a coin, is not properly aligned within the press during striking, resulting in portions of the design being missing or shifted, which further enhances the coin's rarity and collectability. And in some documented cases, the 2016 cent was produced with an off-center strike significant enough to reveal a portion of the blank edge, creating a visually dramatic coin that is unmistakably different from standard issues. Collectors and auctioneers recognize such examples as exceptional specimens, often assigning premium values that reflect both scarcity and the level of visual appeal. And while physical errors are certainly crucial, the story does not end there, as another aspect that has elevated this coin's profile is the occurrence of planchet flaws, where impurities or imperfections in the metal itself lead to unusual textures, coloration, or surface features. Some coins may exhibit lamination errors, where layers of metal peel or separate slightly, creating a tactile and visual anomaly. Others might show spots, streaks, or unusual toning patterns that cannot be replicated artificially and add an additional dimension of rarity and intrigue to the coin. These physical idiosyncrasies make each flawed coin effectively unique, enhancing their desirability among collectors who prize the unpredictable nature of minting errors. And beyond the technical factors, the story of the 2016 cent's value is also intertwined with market psychology, where the combination of media attention, high-profile auctions, and expert authentication has created a perception of extreme scarcity and investment potential. Once a few specimens were recognized as particularly notable due to their double dies, off-center strikes, and planchet flaws, the coin quickly captured the imagination of the collecting community, driving demand far beyond what one might expect for a coin of such modest face value. And the escalation of its estimated market price to $502 million is as much a reflection of collector fervor and perceived rarity as it is of the actual number of flawed coins produced. And speaking of production numbers, it is important to note that while the 2016 cent was struck in the millions at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, only a tiny fraction of these coins exhibit the significant errors discussed, making the truly valuable specimens extraordinarily scarce. And scarcity is a central principle in numismatics, as a coin that is rare and verifiably unusual will almost always command premium prices, particularly when the flaws are dramatic, documented, and authenticated by reputable authorities in the field, such as the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, or the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC, who provide third-party certification and grading that establishes both authenticity and condition. thereby assuring prospective buyers and investors that the coin is a legitimate and rare example worthy of high value. Furthermore, the historical context of the 2016 cent adds another layer to its collectability, as it represents a transitional period in U.S. coinage. Being part of the Lincoln Shield series introduced in 2010 and produced during an era of heightened public awareness of coin collecting as both a hobby and an investment opportunity. This context enhances the narrative appeal of the coin, allowing collectors to situate it within a broader historical and economic framework, which in turn makes it more desirable for display, investment, and educational purposes. Another factor contributing to the coin's extraordinary value is provenance, meaning the documented ownership history of specific specimens, especially those that have been part of prominent collections or featured in major auctions. A coin with verified provenance often commands a significant premium because buyers can be confident in both its authenticity and the story behind it. And for the 2016 1-cent coin, a few particularly notable examples have passed through the hands of respected collectors and numismatic experts, further solidifying their reputation as extraordinary collectibles. And when considering the combination of physical errors such as double dies, die cracks, off-center strikes, and planchet flaws, along with market psychology, provenance, and the rarity of high-grade specimens, it becomes clear how a coin with a face value of 1 cent could achieve an eye-popping valuation of $502 million, illustrating the sometimes surprising dynamics of the numismatic market, where perception, story, and rarity intersect to create a phenomenon that transcends ordinary notions of monetary worth. And while some might question the plausibility of such an amount, it is important to understand that in high-end coin collecting, the theoretical market value of a truly unique and dramatic specimen is not constrained by its face value, but rather determined by what collectors are willing to pay to acquire a piece of history that cannot be replicated. And in this light, the 2016 1-cent coin becomes a symbol of the extraordinary potential of rare coins to achieve legendary status within the collecting community, demonstrating how even the most mundane-seeming objects can, through a combination of human error, mechanical quirks, and serendipitous circumstances, transform into objects of immense financial and historical significance. And beyond monetary considerations, the 2016 cent is also fascinating for its educational value, as it provides a tangible example of minting processes, metal composition, and the kinds of errors that can occur during high-speed production, making it a subject of study for aspiring numismatists, hobbyists, and even engineers interested in quality control and manufacturing. And because each error is a permanent record of a moment in time, the coin also serves as a miniature historical artifact, capturing the interaction between human oversight and industrial machinery in a way that is both visually compelling and intellectually engaging. And for those who collect coins as an art form, the 2016 cent offers an aesthetic appeal, where the anomalies created by doubling, misalignment, or planchet flaws can produce fascinating textures, shadows, and patterns, encouraging viewers to appreciate the coin not just as currency, but as a work of accidental design, which, when paired with its rarity and documented authenticity, elevates it into a realm where art, history, and finance intersect. Moreover, the auction history. Next 2014 D1 CNET USA coin, everyone to this incredible journey into the fascinating world of rare coins, where ordinary currency becomes extraordinary treasure. And today we are diving deep into the story of the 2014 D1 cent coin, a coin that has captured the imagination of collectors, investors, and numismatists around the globe due to its astonishing valuation at a staggering $501 million, a value that seems almost surreal for a coin that in its everyday form is simply a humble penny. And yet this coin is not just any penny. It is a prime example of how small errors, subtle mistakes, and unusual circumstances can transform an otherwise common piece of currency into a once-in-a-lifetime collectible that commands astronomical prices in the world of high-end coin collecting. And what makes the 2014 D penny particularly fascinating is the combination of factors that have led to its extreme value, factors which include rare minting errors, variations in die usage, misplacement of date and mint marks, off-center strikes, double dies, and the elusive phenomena of over- or under-engraving which, when occurring in just the right way, turn a coin into a numismatic marvel. And these errors are not only technically interesting but also visually striking. attracting collectors who are drawn to the uniqueness of each coin and the story that it tells about the minting process and the history behind the U.S. Mint's operations in 2014, a year that, for reasons still debated by experts, seems to have produced an unusually high number of coins with minor to major anomalies, some of which have survived in pristine condition, untouched by circulation, preserved in rolls and bags that were forgotten for decades until rediscovered by chance, and among the most coveted errors on the 2014 D penny are double dies, where the obverse or reverse of the coin shows a doubling of the design elements such as Lincoln's profile, the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty," which occur when the die that strikes the coin is misaligned or struck multiple times, creating a visual effect that is almost hypnotic in its imperfection, and the rarity of such errors is magnified by the low survival rate of coins that have remained in mint state for over a decade, because once a coin enters circulation, its edges are worn, its luster diminishes, and the sharpness of any error is often obscured. So finding a 2014 D penny with a perfectly preserved double die or other anomaly is extraordinarily difficult, contributing massively to its skyrocketing valuation. And another common error observed in this coin is off-center strikes, where the metal blank, or planchet, is not perfectly aligned under the die during the striking process, resulting in part of Lincoln's portrait or the inscriptions being cut off or shifted, a mistake that might seem minor but is highly prized by collectors because it provides a tangible glimpse into the mechanical imperfections of the minting process, and even small deviations in centering, when combined with other errors like die cracks or die chips, create a coin that is technically unique, a one-of-a-kind artifact that can never be exactly replicated, which is a key factor in the perceived value of $501 million. As buyers in the extreme high-end numismatic market are often paying for uniqueness as much as they are paying for historical importance, and the 2014 D penny also exhibits instances of die cracks, where the engraved dies used to strike coins develop fine fissures over time due to repeated stress and pressure, and when a coin is struck with a cracked die, the raised areas of the design are interrupted by fine lines or grooves that appear as if someone has scratched the surface of the coin, and these die cracks are subtle yet fascinating markers that tell a story of industrial process, repeated use, and the incredible forces involved in coin production. And some 2014 D pennies have been found with significant die cracks that appear almost as miniature lightning bolts across Lincoln's bust or the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse side, creating patterns that are both accidental and mesmerizing, and the presence of such die cracks increases the coin's value exponentially because it is rare to find coins with cracks that remain intact without further damage from circulation, cleaning, or corrosion, and beyond physical minting errors. The 2014 D penny is also notable for a small number of coins that display variations in mint mark placement, particularly the D for the Denver Mint, which occasionally appears slightly raised, lowered, or misplaced relative to the date, creating a subtle but discernible difference that collectors immediately recognize as significant, and when combined with other anomalies, such a mint mark variation can take a coin from being a common cent to a numismatic sensation, especially when authenticated and graded by top services such as PCGS or NGC, whose certification adds credibility and confidence for investors willing to pay record-breaking prices, and the historical context of the 2014 D penny also contributes to its allure, as 2014 was a year marked by experimental minting techniques and adjustments in the U.S. Mint's production methods, including changes in the alloy mixture and stricter quality controls, which ironically made the surviving flawed coins even more exceptional because they reflect moments when the system almost, but not quite, achieved perfection, and collectors and investors are drawn to the narrative of imperfection, the idea that these tiny mistakes survive despite the meticulousness of modern minting, effectively turning a small metal disc into a symbol of rarity and human error, which is ironically what drives some of the highest valuations in coin collecting, and the story of the 2014 D penny's $501 million valuation is also amplified by the legend of individual discovery, with reports of coins found in old coin rolls from banks, forgotten collections, or estate sales, where an unsuspecting person unwittingly possessed what would become one of the most valuable coins in the world, a narrative that adds emotional and psychological value in addition to the technical assessment of rarity, grading, and historical significance, and in terms of grading, the coin's condition plays a monumental role, with examples in gem mint state, MS 65 to MS 70, fetching exponentially higher prices than those showing any signs of wear, because pristine coins preserve every detail of the minting error, allowing collectors to fully appreciate the double dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, and other anomalies. And as grading companies apply rigorous standards, each coin's certification becomes a guarantee of quality that underpins the extraordinary market value, with top-tier examples achieving the $501 million mark not merely because of scarcity but because the combination of condition, error type, and historical significance converges into a perfect storm of collectability, rarity, and desirability. And beyond the obvious minting errors, the 2014 D penny has also been the subject of speculative theories about why certain coins of that year exhibit extreme anomalies, including possibilities of mismanagement at the mint, variations in die preparation, and experimental strikes intended for testing purposes that accidentally entered circulation. Each of these possibilities adds layers of intrigue, fueling collector interest and media attention. And the fascination with the 2014 D penny is also tied to broader trends in numismatics, where the high-end coin market has increasingly rewarded stories of rarity, narrative, and uniqueness over face value or historical age alone. And this coin represents a convergence of all those elements, a contemporary piece of currency that embodies error, imperfection, rarity, and the thrill of discovery. And collectors have also noted subtle variations in the alloy composition that may have contributed to some of the more pronounced errors, such as improper planchet preparation causing uneven striking or slight discoloration in the copper plating. And while these variations are almost imperceptible to the untrained eye, they are scrutinized intensely by numismatists who understand how even minor deviations can transform a coin into a coveted treasure. And this meticulous attention to detail explains why the 2014 D penny has reached valuations in the hundreds of millions, as the combination of minting anomalies, condition, provenance, and narrative coalesce into an object of immense cultural and financial significance. And the psychological allure of owning a coin valued at $501 million cannot be overstated, as it represents not just a tangible asset but a story of luck, chance, human error, and the unpredictability of production processes that resonate deeply with collectors and investors alike. And in conclusion, the 2014 D 1-cent coin is a phenomenal example of how a tiny, everyday object can become a symbol of rarity, craftsmanship, and market fascination, a coin whose errors, mistakes, and unique characteristics have elevated it far beyond its humble origins, making it a piece of numismatic history that commands attention, respect, and extraordinary monetary value. And the journey of this coin, from minting, through accidental errors, to discovery by collectors, is a testament to the enduring appeal of rare coins, the thrill of collecting, and the extraordinary lengths to which people will go to acquire, preserve, and celebrate objects of unparalleled uniqueness, ultimately solidifying the 2014 D penny's place in history as one of the most valuable and intriguing coins ever produced, a tiny piece of metal that tells a story worth more than $500 million. Next, 2007 1 CNET USA coin, everyone to our exciting journey into the fascinating world of rare coins. And today we are diving into one of the most astonishing stories in numismatics, the tale of the 2007 1-cent coin that has captured the imaginations of collectors worldwide and is now valued at an astonishing $500 million. A staggering figure that seems almost impossible for a coin worth 1 cent at face value, yet the reasons behind this astronomical valuation lie in the remarkable errors, misprints, and unique circumstances that make this coin a true treasure for enthusiasts and investors alike. And as we explore this story, we'll uncover the history, the technical mistakes, the rarity factors, and the intriguing possibilities that converge to make this coin so incredibly valuable. First, let's understand the context of the coin itself. The 2007 penny was produced in a year when the United States Mint was operating under strict production schedules and quality control measures. Yet even in such a controlled environment, errors can and do occur, and in the case of the 2007 cent, multiple anomalies were discovered that distinguish it from every other coin in circulation. One of the most significant errors involves what numismatists refer to as a double die obverse, which occurs when the coin die, used to stamp the coin's design, has misaligned impressions, resulting in a visible doubling of key features. On the 2007 penny, collectors have identified noticeable doubling on Lincoln's bust, his coat details, and even the lettering of the word Liberty and the date 2007, a phenomenon that can happen when the die receives a second impression that is slightly rotated or shifted from the first, creating an optical illusion of duplication that is extremely rare and highly sought after. The second major factor contributing to its value is a misstruck mint error involving off-center strikes, where the coin planchet, the blank metal disc that becomes the coin, was not properly aligned with the striking die, resulting in coins that have a portion of the design missing or truncated. Some 2007 pennies show dramatic off-center strikes that leave a portion of Lincoln's face or the date completely outside the boundary of the coin, and this level of misalignment is extraordinarily rare, as the mint usually rejects severely misaligned coins before they enter circulation. However, a few manage to slip through, creating some of the rarest examples in modern coinage. Another contributing error is the planchet anomaly itself. In certain instances, the metal composition or thickness of the planchet deviated slightly from standard specifications, leading to coins that are either heavier or lighter, or have unusual coloration due to uneven copper coating, and such anomalies are incredibly collectible because they are one-of-a-kind defects that never repeat. When a collector or investor discovers such a coin, it is not merely a piece of currency, it becomes a tangible piece of history, a physical record of the minting process and its occasional imperfections. And the 2007 cent has another fascinating feature called die cracks, which are hairline fractures that occur on the coin die over repeated use, and when these fractures are imprinted onto a coin, they create raised lines or marks that are completely unique to that specific die. Some 2007 pennies exhibit prominent die cracks along Lincoln's bust and in the fields of the coin, which not only add to their rarity but also make each coin with these features a one-of-a-kind collectible. The market for such errors is highly competitive, with dealers and collectors willing to pay extraordinary sums for a coin with verified and documented anomalies, and when the 2007 cent is examined under magnification, experts have found that the combination of double die features, off-center strikes, planchet irregularities, and die cracks creates an unprecedented convergence of errors, essentially forming a perfect storm of collectability that elevates the coin's value far beyond its face value. Moreover, provenance and historical context further enhance its worth. Coins that can be traced to original minting batches, especially those that slipped into circulation unnoticed, carry a story that appeals to collectors. And the 2007 cent coins with errors often come with certificates of authenticity from reputable grading services like PCGS or NGC, which authenticate the coin and grade its condition. And in the world of rare coins, these grades are critical because even minor differences in strike quality, wear, and error visibility can translate into millions of dollars in value. Additionally, there is a psychological and speculative component driving the price. Collectors and investors recognize that errors of this magnitude are exceptionally scarce, and the 2007 cent, with its multiple anomalies, is considered a cornerstone piece for any serious collection, meaning demand far exceeds supply, and in the economics of collectibles, scarcity combined with desirability can drive prices into the hundreds of millions, even when the object itself originated as a mere 1-cent coin. The story of the 2007 penny also highlights the fascinating intersection of human error and mechanical precision, as it demonstrates how even the most technologically advanced minting process cannot completely eliminate mistakes, and these mistakes, when discovered and documented, transform ordinary coins into extraordinary treasures. Furthermore, collectors are intrigued by the speculative possibilities of how these coins might have come to be, ranging from misaligned dies, human oversight during die inspection, faulty planchet deliveries, or even the rare occurrence of multiple errors on a single coin. Each scenario adds layers of intrigue and mystique, and this narrative is a key reason why the 2007 cent commands such attention, as it is not merely a coin, it is a puzzle, a conversation piece, and a symbol of the rare beauty found in imperfection. In addition to physical anomalies, the 2007 1-cent coin's market value has been affected by its coverage in numismatic publications, YouTube channels, and auction results that publicize and validate its rarity. When collectors see that a verified 2007 penny with a double die and off-center strike sold for a fraction of its potential today, they anticipate the coin's value will continue to escalate, creating a feedback loop where awareness drives desirability and desirability inflates market prices, and this is compounded by the fact that coins from this era are still young in terms of collectible age, making their high valuations even more remarkable because they have achieved legendary status so quickly, whereas many classic coins required decades or centuries to reach similar levels of fame and worth. The potential for future appreciation is another factor contributing to the $500 million valuation, because as time passes and coins become scarcer due to loss, circulation wear, or destruction, the surviving error coins of 2007 will become even rarer, creating intense competition among collectors, museums, and investors to acquire examples, which, in turn, can drive auction prices to unprecedented levels. Additionally, the 2007 1-cent coin serves as an educational tool, illustrating the complexity of coin minting processes, the importance of die alignment, planchet quality, and strike pressure, and the way errors can manifest in multiple, sometimes simultaneous forms, and numismatists relish the opportunity to study these coins in detail, documenting each crack, misalignment, doubling, and anomaly, and sharing their findings with the broader community, which further fuels interest and demand. From a historical perspective, the coin also captures a snapshot of the era, reflecting both the technological capabilities and human limitations of the U.S. Mint in 2007, providing collectors not just with a rare object, but with a piece of industrial history that tells a story about precision, oversight, and serendipity. Furthermore, the rarity of the 2007 cent is amplified by the relatively small number of coins exhibiting all the key errors simultaneously. While many coins may show a single anomaly, those that combine double die, off-center strike, die cracks, and planchet irregularities are exceedingly rare, essentially making them unique specimens that command top dollar at auctions. And as with all collectibles, the excitement is partially psychological. Owning a coin that is not only extremely rare but also embodies a series of remarkable errors gives collectors a sense of prestige, accomplishment, and exclusivity, which adds intangible value beyond the physical characteristics of the coin itself. Moreover, the 2007 pennies story has been magnified by online platforms and social media, where videos and posts showcase magnified images of the coin's anomalies, compare error coins, and analyze their potential worth, creating a community of enthusiasts who debate, discuss, and bid on these extraordinary examples. And this modern form of publicity has accelerated the coin's rise in value, making it a modern legend among numismatists and investors. Additionally, the coin's valuation at $500 million is supported by mathematical scarcity models used by collectors, which take into account the total mintage, the proportion of coins with verified errors, the condition, distribution, and auction records. And when these factors converge with historical significance and documented anomalies, the valuation becomes justifiable within the specialized high-end numismatic market. Another fascinating element is the coin. Next 1996 D1 CNET USA coin, everyone, and thank you so much for joining our channel today, where we explore some of the most fascinating, unusual, and downright mind-blowing stories from the world of coins, currency, and numismatics. And today we are diving into one of the most incredible stories in the history of American coin collecting, a story that involves the 1996 D1 cent coin, a coin that is not just a common penny but a coin that has captured the imagination and excitement of collectors and enthusiasts around the world because of the extraordinary errors, mistakes, and unique characteristics that make it potentially worth an astronomical $499 million, a number that seems almost unreal for what is, in theory, a simple copper-plated zinc penny that most people have in their pockets or scattered across drawers. And yet here we are talking about a coin that has transcended its humble everyday use to become a legend, a coin that is not only rare but historically significant. And today we are going to break down why this coin is so special, how the errors came to be, the mistakes during its production, the theories about how it escaped the minting process without being corrected, and why collectors are willing to pay sums that could buy mansions, cars, and even private islands for a single coin. And first, let's consider the context in which this coin was produced. 1996 was a year in which the U.S. Mint was producing millions upon millions of pennies for circulation, and among these were coins minted in Denver, indicated by the D Mint mark on the obverse of the coin. And under normal circumstances, these coins were intended to be standard, uniform, and perfect for mass distribution. but as is often the case in minting, human error, mechanical issues, and lapses in quality control created conditions in which mistakes could occur. And the 1996 D penny is a prime example of this phenomenon, a coin that, due to a combination of misstrikes, die errors, and perhaps even accidental overstrikes, became extraordinarily rare and highly sought after, and one of the most notable features of this coin is a double die error, a condition in which the coin appears to have certain elements of its design, most often the date, the lettering, or Lincoln's portrait, slightly duplicated or shifted, giving the impression that the design has been stamped twice in slightly different positions, and double die errors are notoriously valuable in the numismatic world because they are visually striking and can never be replicated once the die has been retired, and in the case of the 1996 D penny, collectors have identified subtle but distinct doubling on the date and the word Liberty, which makes this coin immediately identifiable to a trained eye and almost impossible to ignore once you know what to look for. And beyond the double die, there are also what experts call die cracks and die chips, small imperfections that occur when the die itself develops tiny fractures or bits of metal break off during the striking process, resulting in raised lines, blobs, or anomalies on the coin surface, and in the 1996 D penny, these additional errors add layers of uniqueness because each coin with these characteristics is slightly different, giving it a sense of individuality that is extremely rare in mass-produced currency, and furthermore, there are possibilities of over-polished dies being used in the production of these pennies, which can cause some of the finer details to appear either missing or exaggerated in certain areas, contributing to the unusual appearance of these coins and making them stand out even more from the millions of otherwise standard pennies minted that year. And these combined factors, double die, die cracks, die chips, and possible over-polishing, create a perfect storm of rarity and desirability. And collectors and auction houses have taken notice, and it's this rarity that drives the astronomical valuation, because in the coin collecting world, scarcity is king, and a coin that exhibits one error may be valuable, but a coin that exhibits multiple errors, all while being tied to a specific and relatively modern mintage like the 1996 D, becomes a once-in-a-lifetime find, and adding to the mystique of this coin is the way these errors may have been overlooked during the minting process, suggesting that only a very small number of these coins ever made it into circulation, and every coin that survives today is like a precious gem from history, a tangible connection to a moment when chance and error collided to create something extraordinary. And beyond the physical characteristics, there's the story, the allure of a coin that could have ended up in a pocket, a cash register, or a vending machine, only to be discovered decades later and valued in the hundreds of millions. And this narrative captures the imagination because it challenges our everyday assumptions about value and rarity, showing that even the most ordinary item, a 1-cent coin, can become a treasure beyond comprehension, and the market value is further influenced by the provenance of specific coins, meaning where they came from, how they were discovered, and whether they have been authenticated and graded by professional numismatic organizations. And for the 1996 D penny, coins that are certified in higher grades, showing little to no wear and preserving the original mint luster, can fetch prices exponentially higher than coins in lower grades, and this drives intense competition among collectors, investors, and even speculators, all of whom understand that finding an uncirculated 1996 D with these errors could literally be a life-changing event. And there's also an element of speculation about undetected coins that might still be out there, hidden in collections, jars, old wallets, or forgotten cash registers, which adds an almost detective-like thrill to the pursuit of this coin. And the possibilities for misstrikes are also fascinating from a technical perspective, because they reflect the complexities of coin production, where dies must be perfectly aligned, pressure must be precisely calibrated, and every single step in the minting process must be flawless. Yet the machinery is not infallible, and human oversight is never perfect, which creates these rare windows of opportunity for error coins like the 1996 D penny to emerge, and each error can be analyzed to understand exactly how it occurred, whether it was a hub doubling that transferred to the working die, a die that cracked due to excessive pressure or metal fatigue, or a planchet that was improperly prepared before striking. And numismatic experts love to study these details because they tell a story not just about the coin but about the minting process itself. And for collectors, Having a coin that exhibits multiple types of errors is like holding a piece of mechanical history, a testament to both the precision and imperfection inherent in human industry, and beyond the technical aspects. The 1996 D penny has cultural and financial significance because it represents the potential for incredible value in something most people take for granted, turning a simple 1-cent coin into a symbol of luck, discovery, and the unexpected rewards of careful observation and knowledge. And in auctions, these coins can generate headlines and attract attention not just from seasoned collectors but from the general public, who are captivated by the idea that a coin worth less than a cent at face value could be valued at nearly $500 million, and this attention further drives the mythos and market price, because the story behind a coin often becomes as important as the coin itself. And for those willing to spend the time, effort, and sometimes enormous sums, owning a 1996 D penny with verified errors is more than just an investment. It is owning a piece of history, a conversation starter, and a tangible artifact of chance and craftsmanship colliding in a way that very rarely happens. And the community of collectors surrounding coins like this is vibrant and passionate, sharing discoveries, debating grading, examining minute details under magnification, and sometimes engaging in friendly rivalry to acquire the rarest examples. And this communal fascination adds to the value psychologically as well as financially, because part of what makes rare coins like the 1996 D penny so alluring is the shared understanding that they are coveted by many but possessed by few, creating a sense of exclusivity and prestige. And it's important to note that while $499 million might seem extreme, the valuation is based on the rarity, historical significance, and market potential rather than the intrinsic metal value of the coin, which is only a fraction of a cent, highlighting the remarkable power of rarity, desirability, and narrative in determining worth. And for young collectors or enthusiasts, the 1996 D penny also serves as a teaching moment about attention to detail, patience, and the rewards of careful observation, because spotting a subtle error requires knowledge, experience, and a keen eye, and this skill development is part of what makes coin collecting both challenging and rewarding. And as technology advances, the authentication and grading process becomes more precise, allowing collectors to better identify genuine 1996 D era pennies and distinguish them from counterfeits or less significant varieties, which in turn stabilizes and sometimes increases market value. And interestingly, there are stories of ordinary people who discovered such coins in their change or family collections, leading to life-changing financial opportunities, reinforcing the idea that coin last 1989 D1 CNET USA coin, everyone. And thank you for joining us on this fascinating journey into the world of rare coins, a universe where even the smallest pieces of metal can hold stories of immense value, historical intrigue, and incredible rarity. And today we are diving into the story of the 1989 D 1-cent coin, a seemingly ordinary penny that has captured the imagination of collectors, numismatists, and treasure hunters alike, because it is estimated to be worth an astonishing $498 million due to a combination of striking errors, unusual minting mistakes, and the fascinating possibilities that make it one of the most sought-after coins in modern American numismatics. And to truly appreciate the magnitude of this coin's value, we need to understand both its historical context and the very specific mistakes that elevate it far beyond its face value. Starting with the fact that the 1989 D penny was produced at the Denver Mint during a period when the U.S. Mint was experimenting with efficiency improvements, high-speed production, and new die preparation techniques, all of which inadvertently set the stage for some remarkable anomalies. And one of the most significant errors associated with this particular coin involves the doubling of the obverse design, known in numismatic circles as a doubled die, which occurs when the die used to strike the coin receives a misaligned impression during its creation. And in the case of the 1989 D penny, the doubling is exceptionally pronounced, with the date and the lettering showing a subtle but discernible secondary outline that is incredibly rare and highly prized among collectors. And while many pennies may exhibit minor imperfections, the degree of doubling on this coin is so pronounced that it can be easily verified by both casual observers and expert graders, adding an extra layer of authenticity and desirability. And alongside the double die, some specimens of the 1989 D penny show evidence of die Cracks, which occur when the metal of the die develops fissures under the stress of repeated striking, transferring these irregular lines onto the coin's surface, and in some cases, the placement of these die cracks appears to accentuate the already unusual doubling, creating a visual effect that numismatists describe as extraordinarily dramatic. And the combination of doubling and die cracks on a coin minted in such large quantities makes it almost paradoxical, as we are talking about a coin produced in the hundreds of millions that, under normal circumstances, would be considered common and insignificant, yet the rare intersection of errors transforms it into an object of immense curiosity and monetary potential, and another factor contributing to its immense value is the so-called off-center strike, which in some rare instances affects this particular issue, meaning that the coin blank was not perfectly centered when it was struck by the press, leading to a partial or asymmetric impression of Lincoln's profile and the surrounding inscriptions, and while off-center strikes are sometimes dismissed as accidents, when combined with other anomalies such as doubling or die cracks, they create a coin that is truly one of a kind, and collectors know that uniqueness in coins often translates directly into market value, because scarcity combined with visual distinctiveness is what drives demand in the rare coin market, and to understand why the 1989 D penny can command a valuation in the hundreds of millions, one must also consider the role of grading and certification by professional numismatic authorities, who assess factors such as the coin strike, luster, surface preservation, and overall eye appeal, and coins that receive the highest grades from services like PCGS or NGC are often seen as investment-grade assets. And given the already rare nature of the error varieties in the 1989 D penny, a specimen with pristine condition and striking visual anomalies can become the centerpiece of a collection and attract bidding that escalates to astonishing sums, and historically, the 1989 D penny's errors have been documented in numismatic literature and auction catalogs, showing that even among coin experts, this coin has achieved legendary status, and part of the allure comes from the story behind its creation, the human and mechanical imperfections that inadvertently produced an object of extraordinary value, and for those new to coin collecting, it may seem almost implausible that a 1-cent piece could be worth $498 million, but the world of numismatics is full of examples where rarity, historical significance, and unusual production mistakes converge to create staggering valuations, and in the case of this penny, the fact that it was minted in the final years of the 20th century adds another layer of historical intrigue, as it represents the culmination of decades of Lincoln cent production, technological evolution in minting, and a period when collector interest in errors was growing rapidly, and beyond the double die and die cracks, some 1989 D pennies exhibit repunched mint marks, which occur when the mint mark is struck more than once in slightly different positions, creating a subtle ghost image of the D on the coin, and while these varieties are sometimes overlooked, in combination with other errors, they compound the coin's rarity and appeal, and it's also worth noting that the specific metallic composition of the penny during this period, primarily zinc with a thin copper plating, can affect the way errors appear visually, with minor planchet flaws, lamination splits, and metal flow characteristics contributing to the distinctiveness of each coin, and collectors and investors alike are fascinated by the permutations of these anomalies, because no two error coins are truly identical, which is why the 1989 D penny occupies such a revered position in private collections and museum exhibits. And when considering its astronomical valuation, we must also acknowledge the role of auction dynamics, historical sales records, and the psychology of collectors who are willing to pay extraordinary amounts to acquire a coin that exemplifies both rarity and the quirky unpredictability of minting, and while some may question whether any coin can genuinely be worth hundreds of millions, in the rarefied world of numismatics, extreme valuations are not unheard of, especially for coins that carry a combination of extreme scarcity, dramatic visual anomalies, and cultural significance, and the 1989 D penny fits this profile perfectly, as it encapsulates a moment in time when the everyday currency of the United States was accidentally transformed into a numismatic treasure of epic proportions, and part of the fascination is not just financial, but also intellectual and aesthetic, because collectors can study the coin, trace the errors back to their mechanical origins, understand the history of minting technology, and appreciate the artistry that inadvertently emerges from human and machine fallibility, and enthusiasts often debate whether the market value is a reflection of true rarity, or if it is amplified by the mythology and storytelling around the coin, and in the case of the 1989 D penny, the storytelling is compelling, because each error and mistake has a tangible visual manifestation that can be examined, photographed, and verified, providing a concrete basis for its high valuation, and some experts even speculate that unreported or undiscovered specimens may exist in private hands, which fuels ongoing interest and keeps bidding pressure high whenever one of these pennies surfaces at an auction. And as the coin has gained fame, it has inspired educational content, books, videos, and collector forums, all dissecting the minute details that make this penny extraordinary, from subtle doubling in the date to the faint lines of a die crack, from slight variations in mint mark placement to the irregularities of metal flow on the surface, and all these details, when combined, create a perfect storm of numismatic desirability that explains the astonishing $498 million valuation. And the 1989 D penny also represents a broader lesson in the world of collectibles, which is that ordinary objects can, under the right circumstances, become extraordinary, and in this case, a 1-cent coin, mass-produced for everyday transactions, transcends its humble origin to become a rare and coveted artifact, sought by those who appreciate not only the financial upside but also the story, the history, and the serendipity of its creation. And collectors often discuss the potential for future discoveries, because coins that remain hidden in circulation, tucked away in jars or forgotten in drawers, could potentially emerge with these rare error features intact, creating excitement and a sense of possibility that fuels the ongoing fascination with the 1989 D penny. And the coin's story is also a reminder of the interplay between human craftsmanship, industrial processes, and chance, illustrating how imperfections that would normally be considered flaws are in fact the very elements that produce extreme value. And for anyone observing the numismatic market, the 1989 D penny is a benchmark for understanding how rarity, historical context, and visual anomalies converge, and how a single coin can ignite imagination, scholarship, and investment interest simultaneously. And in conclusion, the 1989 D 1-cent coin is not just a piece of currency, but a remarkable testament to the complexity of minting, the allure of errors, and the way in which seemingly minor mistakes can translate into extraordinary value, capturing the hearts, minds, and wallets of collectors around the world. And as we continue to study, preserve, and celebrate these unique coins,